change
Okay,
position over time, but me moving isn't time.
Exactly.
It takes time for me to move.
Exactly.
It takes time for me to move. That I give you, but me moving isn't time.
Exactly.
That's why.
So prove to me time when there's no movement.
That is a flat Earth question. There's no way.
I'm not talking about flat Earth.
Somebody's dead, Somebody's dead and they're not moving.
That is
right? But time still passes.
I cannot stop time, dog. I have no control over time.
How can
like that's a dumb question?
Hold on, it's not.
It's not a dumb question.
Somebody's dead and they're not moving, but time passes. Time passes when somebody's dead, right? Someone's dead, they're not moving, and time is still passing. So it's not there.
They're decomposing, so there is movement. I don't even mean a conscious level of movement. I mean every single movement, like atoms moving, electrons moving. Literally, if this wasn't, can I speak for a second instead of getting interrupted, dude? If you don't have this movement, then there's actually no concept of time, because time comes from the concept of movement.
Go ahead, Scott.
Okay, so
I was just saying it's not completely ridiculous. It's just it's not clear. There's not really a good answer to it. I mean, physics never really does define time formally. I mean, Einstein threw a big fit about this in one of his letters about how that we don't have a great definition, and you can sort of do it as movement, but it's not. Typically that isn't really how it's done. You could do it as change in energy. Change in energy states. But none of these are quite the same thing, but they certainly are. They're certainly inextricably linked for sure. How strong of a statement are you saying? I mean, are you insisting that it has to be identity? It has to be exactly the same thing, or are you just saying they're tied so tightly together that you can sort of think about it?
An inanimate object on the side isn't moving, but yet because the atoms on the next level are moving. Yeah, I get that. Yeah. But that's been a bit pedantic, isn't it? But
it's more like being precise. It's more like being precise.
No, he's saying movement equals time, and that is not the case. Nowhere in physics is time even defined like that. In physics, you define time is just a measurement, a scalar quantity.
Okay, but without movement in itself, there's no time. Time is a measurement of movement. That's what I'm trying to tell you.
Time is a measurement of change.
No, okay, well, what does change imply? Movement, dude. I don't understand how that's...
Change implies a lot of things.
Change in science means movement.
No, it could be change of temperature.
Yeah, change of energy state.
Temperature. Yeah.
Or energy.
Change in temperature is a change in movement, guys, though, because temperatures kinetically measure how fast the molecules move. But you could have a change in some sort of potential energy.
So, all right, let's say something is it absolute zero? Is it not still being affected by time? It has no energy. It's not moving at all. Are you telling me there's no time there?
Wait, say that again, sorry?
If something is at absolute zero, it has no energy, right? There's no forces working on it. It cannot move. Are you telling me it's not affected by time?
Yeah, there's no such thing as time.
What?
Literally, time implies the movement.
You're not answering my question.
Literally, if you're in for instance, if there's nothingness, right, there's no time.
I didn't
because there's no movement.
I didn't say anything about
wait, no. Okay, but so if we're saying it's still in this universe, of course there's time. But if you're saying nothingness, for instance, the absence of anything moving. Or anything
I didn't say that. But I didn't even I did not say anything about that. What I asked you is, if something is at absolute zero, it has no temperature reading, no energy, there are no forces working upon it. It is still matter. It still exists. It still has dimensions within space-time. But it has no energy on it. It cannot move. Is it still being affected by time?
Yeah, because it's in the realm. It's in the frame.
That proves you wrong.
It's in the frame of,
but it's affected by time.
Okay, but no, but it's movement all around.
There's this equation that movement equals time. That's not the case, man.
Okay, Lily, what I'm saying is, if you're in the box where there is time, then you are affected by movement. Or movement is time. But if you're outside the box and there's literally no such thing as...
Without a measurement, you can't.
Okay, when you look up in the sky and there's the sun and then there's the moon, what are you saying? Like, why do we have a clock to start with?
I'm seeing.
Is it the movement? Is it the movement of the sun that we predict our time with?
I'm seeing movement because the sun and the moon have forces acting upon them, energy being imparted upon them.
Yeah,
Now,
energy,
I'm
which is
giving
giving
you
movement
an
to those
example
molecules in
exactly
itself.
because they have energy. That's why
You
they
know,
can.
because they
I'm
have
giving you
movement.
an
Yeah, the energy
example
and the
of
movement. Yeah.
matter that is not being affected by energy. There's no.
There's no what? All right, he's gone. Literally,
Go ahead,
all I'm
Dan
going to say.
I think that guy's a bit annoying because, all right, on his understanding on this science, this molecular level, that that these atoms move in a certain way, so that the different positions are an indication of time, a bit like the hands of a clock. So if you imagine an atom as a clock, and then every single second moves, an atom going around it, that is movement, and I understand the pedantic level is going to, but I just think that when somebody asks you what time is, you don't talk about fucking the molecular level. Like, for example, if you ask me what metal is, I'm not going to start pulling out the fucking the table of fucking stuff. I'm going to say metal is metal. Do you know what I mean? We don't need to go down to the atom level to go. Oh,
no, I think you precisely do. If someone refuses what time is, then you need to.
Well, but really, if we do that, if we really think about that in that way, and we think about it at the quantum level, really movement becomes something slightly different there, right? Because movement becomes this sort of probabilistic thing that doesn't actually even become instantiated until we observe it. So how do you equate time to movement in the case in which it's sort of a probabilistic field and not yet actually movement,
Somebody turns around to me and goes like, "You got a time, mate?" And I turn around and go, "Well, time is a movement on a molecular level. You just look at you, or how do you measure that side? Or use concepts of a ruler. You just say fucking use meters, centimeters.
Right.
Simple.
I know.
Sorry,
Unbelievable, isn't it?
I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry.
We were waiting for him to ask a question before you went off on your ramble.
Oh, sorry.
Wait, can you say that again?
By me?
Yeah.
Well, I was just asking. If we think about movement in quantum physics, right? If we try to go down to that level, and we think about movement being probabilistic in nature, right? Because we say that we don't actually have a location, we don't actually have movement until we make an observation, and so movement suddenly becomes this strange thing that doesn't clearly connect up with time in the same way as it was when we were in the classical universe. And it makes you wonder, what are your thoughts on that? Have you thought about what that might mean to this identity you're trying to make?
What do you mean by it's not movement until we observe?
I mean, we don't know an actual location. We don't the probabilistic the probabilistic field is doesn't tell us where it's going to land until we check to see where it lands, right? So it's sort of in all places with different probabilities. There's a sense in which it's not actually physically instantiated yet, and yet it's sort of moving.
Just because you can define exactly where it is doesn't mean there's not movement there.
All right, but
it's movement in all places, sort of with different levels of probability.
Well, it's that's a probability. It's not actually moving in all places. It's moving in one place, but because we can't observe it, therefore it has to be moving in all places.
Well, I thought, but my sense of it, and I'm no expert. My sense of it was the other way around. That no, it was in a deep way, not in any one place. It's not just a matter of us not knowing. It's in a literal way. It was not in one place. Is that not correct?
So, it's in two places, or like, what do you mean?
In all places, it has no meaning outside the sense of a probabilistic, field equation.
You get the Schrodinger's cat with this sort of argument.
Well, that's what we're already there.
Yeah, but
all right.
But it's Heisenberg's uncertainty principle is what it really is.
Yeah, it just says that you can have two different states that contradict each other, which can be true, and when you add them together, it can still be true.
So I guess what I'm getting at is it seems to me that motion is not as simple as even we were sort of just talking about it. And
no, it is though. It is, because matter can only be in motion when the force is acting upon it, right? So energy needs to be imparted. So energy is imparted on matter because you'll get a temperature reading on it. Now, if matter is at absolute zero, it is frozen. There is no energy acting upon it, no forces. It cannot move, right? But it is still being affected by time.
What do you think dark matter is?
dark matter. Some
That's
people say it's fluid.
Because like literally, that's what I got from it. Like, what's the concept of dark?
That is nothing to do with the example I just gave you, though. We're talking about normal matter at absolute zero, no temperature, no forces, no energy. It cannot move. It is absolutely.
Can you demonstrate that?
Atom within it is. We're not able to reach absolute zero, but we get very close to it.
Yeah, so you can't demonstrate. So I'm just going off your hypothetical, which disproves my argument, but that hypothetical doesn't actually exist. So that's, for instance, that's like me saying, believe in God, because I actually know God.
In the year 2020, no, the reason it doesn't exist is because in the year 2020, we don't have the instrumentation to reach absolute zero. There is no physical law that says it is impossible to reach that.
Yeah, okay, but that's a hypothetical. There we go. It's against saying that God exists because I said so.
It is not hypothetical.
Okay, but that's such a loose term. Yeah, but come on, dude. That's really that's like me saying turn into a Christian because God is real. How do I know? Because hypothetically he's real. That's all you're telling me right now. There's no actual evidence for what you've said. It's literally nothing I know.
I mean, if we can get to 90%, absolute zero, who says, and the laws of physics allow us to get to 100% absolute zero, I don't know how that is hypothetical. It can be done. We just can't do it today.
Well, how do you know it can be done? This is based on your beliefs of what can be done in the future.
It can be done. The third law of thermodynamics says it can be done. Do you know what the third law is?
Brush me up on the third law. I know the first and second, but the third one I forget.
Okay, so the third law of thermodynamics says that within the closed system, entropy tends to move towards absolute zero.
Oh yeah, okay, so yeah, I understand that. Yeah,
at absolute zero within the system, if the entropy is at absolute zero, you have
so
what is the term?
I don't believe in absolute zero.
Equilibrium, and you have a defined constant.
Yeah,
I don't believe in it.
Nate, I was just looking up something about this where they're talking about whether, for example, do the electrons become stationary if you ever reach the hypothetical absolute zero? And they basically said that there's never truly an absolute zero to the point where the electron stops moving. The electrons wouldn't be able to change state, but they would still jiggle about, which means there would still be movement.
Right. What is causing them to move, though, if they don't have energy?
Oh, man.
There must be something.
Well, that would disprove yours.
Then they must be moving due to something else. It's not due to energy. Then there's something else acting upon it. Maybe an external energy source. I mean, the reason we can't reach absolute zero is because of the second law.
I feel like if you have to go to this extreme to try and disprove his point, let's just let him have it. Let him have movement. Is one way every time in time.
And the problem is, I don't think he'll get it any further than that because this was originally directed at SE, and I'm pretty sure SE denies atoms.
No, but he can't deny movement.
All right.
Well, if we look at the law of thermodynamics,
well, he could at this level, couldn't he? If he doesn't believe there are any atoms.
Once we reach maximum entropy, it just means there's not enough concentrated energy to do any useful work, right? So just because, the atoms are still, the subatomic particles are still vibrating within the atom, but if you can't do anything usable work with it, and entropy is at its maximum.
They're not vibrating anymore because there's no more energy that can be inputted into the system.
Well, what they're saying here, what these physicists said is that there is no state of matter in which there is no movement whatsoever. He said that at the very minimum energy state at maximum entropy, there would still be vibration within the subatomic nucleus.
Does he say what's causing the vibration, though? Does he say what's causing the vibration?
Right, man. Movement exists. It's a kind of a measurement of time. Let's concede it.
Yeah, but I'm just it's cool. I concede. I'm just very curious as to what Jake's reading.
Well, I would think though, because that it would be more something like an orbit with no friction, where there's no work being extracted. So whatever the very last bit of energy was within the system is what put the things in motion. Because there's no energy being extracted, it would, I guess, stay in that that state of vibration indefinitely.
SE, you still there?
Okay, but the article you're reading, what does the guy say? If the
cool. This isn't helping you explain time, is it? So have you got any any rebuttals to normal
we know
time?
that the electrons slow down as
Oh man,
maybe Jake, could you post what you're reading, and then we can let the convo continue, man. Then I'll just read it.
Right, though, if you have any matter at all.
I gotta move it from my laptop to my phone. Hold
one
on.
person says that you're trying to freeze, atoms, and one person saying it's still movement. So movement's a good one to concede. But this is all down to SE's first point, which is there is no time, and I'm trying to see if there's any progress on this time explanation for him. And I don't want to take I'm happy for anyone else to take over that, but I feel listening to one person saying, well, freezing atoms, and one person saying, well, it's still movement. It's just, there's nothing more than we can do. I feel like, yeah, probably on a technical level, he's right that any movement is also a way of explaining time. But I would never ever use that for time.
You're equating two things here. You're equating absolute zero, which they say cannot be achieved. So then there must be movement, right?
Yeah.
You're equating that with time, which is something totally different.
So there we go. You can't
don't forget that SE's argument against time was the fact that he does not believe it. Kind of like Slick James' argument about beliefs and facts.
I said it sounds to me like a Slick James argument.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't believe. I only deal with experiences. I don't believe in time, but I believe in I believe in some aspects of it.
Exactly.
It's an absurd.
No, I gave explanations as why I don't believe.
But you use it every day, and then you reject it that it exists. That's ridiculous, man. But that's fine.
That's
You're not getting it, dude. It's too
That's a page from Slick James, literally.
You show up to an appointment on time, therefore you use the construct of man-made time. But then you want to reject it. You want to reject the concept of it.
Yeah, we use it. Everyone fucking uses it, but that doesn't mean just because we use it doesn't mean that we have to agree with it.
That's what I'm saying. You're rejecting.
I use a car every day, but doesn't mean cars exist.
Dude, do you know why we all have clocks that are synchronized around the world? Do you know why that is?
It doesn't. I don't care. I just hear an invalid argument. Is what I hear.
Dude, this sounds like Bernie. Oh my god, is that Bernie Sanders?
What's invalid about it, SE? Because we need to understand your understanding of it. Do you understand? Could you not explain it better for us?
No, you're not going to get it, Bromy. Bromy, it's going to be the same thing.
SE, there's no way to say the following words. I have no beliefs.
I'm curious, how have we defined time?
You guys can't help yourself, right? You can't have a regular conversation, can you?
We're trying to have one.
It's not a regular conversation. How can you say that's a regular conversation?
When someone fucking says, hey guys, I don't believe time is real and therefore it's not real, it's not a fucking conversation. It's just an idiot's pure illogical shit.
It's not a regular conversation. That's like saying, let's have a conversation about God. That is not a normal conversation because it's not in the reality, in the physical world, or physical that you can touch and speak of and talk about.
What is time?
You see,
is it not?
Let's not do this. We just spent about an hour doing that. Let's not do that. Apparently, we've said time is movement, and that is useful somehow. Although we're yet to find out how.
I'd never use that as an explanation.
I'll go with that. Okay. That makes sense. Instead of a moron who thinks he knows.
I just think an easier way is measurement. It's a measurement. I use if I was to have a scientific experiment and I want to know how long it took for that candle to burn from one end to the other, I'd set it a light and I'd start a timer and I'd use that timer as a measurement within seconds to determine how long it takes. So for me, it's a very important tool. Measurement.
We're not denying that, Broomy.
Can I point something out?
SE is right. When I'm having a bowel movement, it feels like forever. So yeah.
So it seems like
me 10 BMs to do.
It seems like you're basically.
Bro.
According to physics, from the perspective of a photon.
Just let me know when I can go.
Time is a measurement of the passage of moments.
So, from the perspective of a photon photon is not going forward or backward in time. Time is completely still for a photon, but yet it still moves at the speed of light. How do you explain?
Can I just point out something real quick?
If we want to have a conversation back with that, what's his name? What's his name? The guy who said that time's movement. That's a good
go ahead,
argument.
Stanley. You want to say something?
That's not Soundly, by the way. He sounds like Soundly.
It's fake Soundly.
Yeah, Soundly too.
Soundly we did one session.
Soundly one here.
That was a really good argument, I think.
What I was saying is, it seems like he's reading the definition of things. So, like, he'll read the definition of time. He'll accept all those attributes that are in the definition, but then he wants to call it something else. Like, he won't accept that it's called that thing. Yeah, I mean, but a rose by any other rose is still a rose. I mean, a rose by any other name is still a rose. He's just accepting everything about time, except he doesn't want to call it that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's exactly what I was saying. But
I think the problem is there's a difference between the colloquial understanding of time and the physics definition of time.
That's Soundly too.
It's definitely a slick James, and I believe that I don't have beliefs.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Physics definitions of time actually vary. In Newton's laws of motion, time is external. In Einstein's relativity, time is indivisible from space. So the definition is different.
These people act like this is the first time people have ever thought about these things or something. It's
I
amazing.
posted a link the link to an article says the era of time with 8 different definitions about the era of time, from thermodynamics to psychological.
What's interesting, though, is it's literally the same thing as denying gravity. Like, yes, they acknowledge that things fall to the ground and that, they acknowledge that there's a direction to the way things fall and that there's a force, but then they don't want to call it gravity. And then it's the same thing with time. They acknowledge that, yes, there's movement and there's rates of tracking movement, but they still want to say there's no time.
It sounds to me like they sat down on another server and said, how can we come up with contradictory subjects of contradictory that contradict the subjects of the matter at hand?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a moot point.
No, not matter. It's time. Two different things.
It's a moot point, and you can't communicate properly. It's just dysfunctionally broken down.
Silly, this is an example
in a fabric of space-time. You are delusional. Do you not understand that?
It doesn't matter what I believe or what you believe. I'm not calling you delusional or retarded or anything. It's just the way you are.
Dude, seriously, if you believe in something called the fabric of space-time, I don't have the right to call you delusional?
Yeah. It's fine.
I see. But I have the right to say you don't understand the actual concept, and instead of saying I don't understand and I don't know, you're making a statement based on a lack of understanding of a concept.
You're incorrect. I understand.
That is very self-evident.
I watched videos on
really well said,
You watch videos.
It's
Congratulations,
dude.
You read a book that I don't even think you read.
Rocket, he hasn't presented enough of an argument to be considered a really good argument. It's like the Slick James thing. I don't believe in believe, but I believe.
No, that is true. Yeah, you're right.
There's no. He hasn't presented enough evidence to prove his state of mind. Okay. And
I have an estimate of his state of mind.
Show me your evidence.
I respect people and their state of mind, but they've got to really iron it out.
You're
when
all
it's very
talk, bro. You're sounding like a psychiatrist. You're all freaking talk. I can hear you farting.
Okay, well, good.
Some evidence of your fabric of
I
space-time.
believe I don't have beliefs.
Well, that's what these other guys are for. I'm just here to. I'm just here to
space-time. Show it.
To let them know that it's an illogical.
Don't try to take the high ground, man.
No, it's true though. Rocket put it very nicely.
He's right. He's right though. It's just silly. Why do we need to do that? What's the point? If you want to take this view, take it. It doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. It doesn't change anything about the shape of the Earth, for one thing.
Exactly.
Who said anything about the shape of the Earth?
Well, it's called Debate Flat Earth and More. The server's
I got you in a corner. You know it's moronic to believe
your
in a
corner,
thing called the
SC though, this is
of space-time. Just admit it, man. For once, say
this is one of.
I want to hear.
This is what just your standard. What you've got us in a corner. It's just you asserting something stupid. And
Jem, you can do it, bro. Come on, I know
Look,
you're big.
I'll do it. I don't quite understand the fabric.
I already proved you wrong. I already proved you wrong.
Come on.
I already proved you wrong right at the start of the conversation. You accept there's a past. You accept there's a future. That's time. I don't need to go I don't need to demonstrate the fabric of space-time to you. You've admitted that there's time, you know, as far as I'm concerned. You can keep hang on, I'm still talking.
You're squirming.
You can keep saying that you haven't, but it's you know, you're just an adult, apparently in your 50s, playing make-believe. That's what I see. So you know, you can tell me that you've got me in a corner. But I just think you're somebody who's, like I say, playing make-believe.
Hey, past in the future.
I don't know the fabric of space-time. I don't understand the fabric of space-time that well. I wouldn't try and prove something to you that I don't fully understand. But I wouldn't say it wasn't true just because I didn't understand it. That's like Rocket said about you, which I think is accurate.
I can tell you, it's very simple. There's three-dimensional vector, and there's a four-dimensional vector. Four-dimensional vector is space-time. That's essentially the simplest way of understanding what space-time is.
Okay.
Or look at it this way: if you're going to tell a buddy to meet you for a coffee, you tell him a couple of things. You tell him where you're going to meet him and when you're going to meet him. Because if you don't have all of that, you're not going to meet at the same spot.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
I'm curious, does the past and the future exist?
He said it does.
I'm not asking.
Well, you guys believe? That's a great question. I could answer that.
Well,
you guys believe that you can exist in the past, present, and future at the same time.
That's a misrepresentation of what's been said.
And you're telling me why I laugh at you guys?
That just shows you don't understand what you're talking about. Yeah, that shows you don't understand what you're talking about. That's what I'm saying.
I can show you. I can't remember his name. What was his name? Green. It's one of those professor guys that make the videos.
You're misrepresenting
I'll find
people.
it and I'll post it for you, bro.
You're wrong, bro. Could you explain to everybody what you think space time is, or what your teachings are of them? Since you know it doesn't exist.
That's not my claim. You explain it to me.
I know, but you're acting like you understand it. Do you not understand it, or do you or do you not understand it?
You said my explanation.
Do you understand it or do you not understand it? It's a yes or no answer. It's not very hard.
I understand it, yes.
Okay, could you please explain your understanding to everybody?
You want me to explain to you what space-time is?
Yeah.
Sure. Einstein ate a lunch and somebody must have slipped some magic mushrooms in it.
Okay.
And he took a bus ride, and he came up with this idea.
No, just stop. This is just
That's what it is. You don't like it, but
there's no point in you even finishing what you were going to say.
There really isn't. It was just silly.
I found it quite funny, to be honest. I did find that quite funny. He took some mushrooms on the bus ride.
Come on, SD, be fucking real for once. Come on.
But seriously, you can't explain what space time is. Then you ain't got a proper understanding what the scientific.
You didn't let me finish. You didn't
let
me finish.
All right.
This man named Einstein, that idiot there laughing right there. You see him on the screen? That clown who laughs at you every day, who told you there's a thing called fabric of space-time. He came up with an idea. He presented it to another bunch of clowns. At first, they rejected it, but then his peers accepted it. That's what happened.
And that's what fabric of space-time is. But that's the
same thing happened with Galileo. What's your point?
What is the actual definition of plain fabric?
There's no point.
You want me to go into further detail? I'll do
it.
it.
I want to explain.
Just for you, bro.
Why do you think humanity's stupid, man? I don't understand it. Is it just because you're stupid?
People like Essie are allowed to procreate. That's
he measures everything according to his own stupidity. So yeah, according to him, everyone else must be stupid.
You see, when the honestly comes, you have no answers. Refute me scientifically what I said. You bunch of fucking clowns. Go ahead.
Here is the refutal. Here is the refutal.
Go.
SC, here is the refutal. You're being illogical. End of story.
All right. Well,
wow, man, you should be a fucking genius. Hey,
you don't
the
understand
universities are looking for people like you.
Whatever. What's his name?
MIT.
Essay, you don't understand it, then that's all you've demonstrated. But there was a good story though, and I did find it hilarious. It was funny.
Thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed it, Brumi.
It was funny, mate. Well, it doesn't really explain the fabric of space.
I'm telling you, some clown ate mushrooms, came up with a story.
No. I ate some mushrooms once as well, but I saw the fucking fabric of space time when I took mushrooms as well. Like it's real. It's fucking real.
Me too. When I did mushrooms, I saw a few fabrics bending.
Something's fucking, you know.
You see some shit on mushrooms, man. Especially when you close your eyes. Ooh.
No, man.
If you guys believe in that shit, seriously, if you guys believe in the fabric of bending of space-time, you have been Stockholmed. You know Stockholm syndrome? Seriously.
How have we been Stockholmed?
Yeah, but we could say the same about you. If you don't believe in time and all this other stuff and that it's relative to this and that, then we think you're a nut. So it's equally warranted.
Yeah, but the difference is anybody. It doesn't even apply here. Nobody has Stockholm syndrome.
Curious.
But how could you be an adult with a brain and believe in the fabric of space-time bending? How could you believe that?
It's the same thing for you. How could you be an adult and not believe in some of these concepts that are true?
I believe in the true concepts, but not in the stupid ones. And
what Rocket Science just explained, space-time quite well, that you're never going to be able to meet your friend if you don't know the time and location, and then you meet within that realm of space-time, and it makes sense. That's a nice way of explaining it, and I think that's very logical to assume, because I would never know where to meet and what time to meet my friend if I never had that connection. Do you understand? So it's very logical.
It's been nice talking with you guys. It's supper time. Believe whatever you want. We'll pick up the conversation at another time.
Hopefully
Good night,
not.
Everybody.
Another time.
Jesse has to go eat his beaver tail at dinner.
That's a troll of a troll, right
That's
there.
the perfect way to end it.
So Einstein, he says that the faster you go, the slower you experience time. So how is it that a person going fast and a person going slow end up at the same time?
Because it's
That's another one of his stupidities. And you guys believe it.
I thought you were leaving.
Yeah, it's time for you to go.
He doesn't believe in time, so there might be a
problem. See you at another time, guys. See you at a later time.
Do you own a wallet?
Says the guy who doesn't believe in time. I'll see you at a later time.
Place right here.
Yeah, but he's trolling.
Hey, Brumi, catch you at a later time, bro.
Yeah, man. Take some mushrooms for me.
Like, why doesn't the fast guy disappear from the current time and then end up in the future time?
Because time is
define how fast you're talking about.
99% C.
Time is still.
Do you know somebody who's actually gone that fast?
At that speed.
Because you cannot accelerate an object to C. So saying that something accelerated the object with 0.99 C is bullshit.
Yeah, according to the theory, if he travels at the speed of light and I stand still and he comes back, it'll still be 3 o'clock for both of us, but I would have experienced more time. That's what you're asking, right?
Assuming he hasn't gained infinite mass, but yeah.
Yeah, why is it still 3 o'clock for both of us? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, like it just doesn't. It doesn't relate to the way people intuitively think of time.
Because it's not intuitive, man.
So then it's not the same concept. So why are we calling it the same word?
No. Saying something is non-intuitive doesn't equate to the statement you just made.
Yeah, what you added after. You
know. That's a misnomer you just tried to pull there. That's bullshit.
No, because
it's like looking at it this way, right? So according to Newtonian, physics, time is absolute. We all experience time the same way. Our arrows of time are all the same. But then according to relativistic physics, our arrows of time are in a way different, special, relative to the observer.
Wait, does Newton even address time? I don't think he does.
Of course he does.
Newton he just said time was absolute, and he left it.
I don't think he does, Kosho. I don't think so.
That's okay. He does.
I don't think so. I think you're just making stuff up.
Soda,
He doesn't
go read Newton's treatise on Principi. Read that, and maybe you'll understand it.
She's got to read all my gravity experiments first.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
I got it pulled up. I got it pulled up on the side right here.
Awesome.
So how do you end up at the same time? I travel at the speed of light for 1 mile, and I get to that destination. Then somebody else travels over 20 minutes to get that distance. Do they experience the same amount of relativistic travel just at over a longer period of time? Is that how we get back together?
No, it's because time is relative. Because basically, see it as we all have our own individual clock. But
that did not sound like an answer to Moyak's question.
Yeah, it's not an answer, but I'm trying to give him an analogy to work with because there's no way I can give him a straight answer.
Moyak, if I may, technically they don't. If you actually calculate it out, yes, there is a small difference.
Right.
It's so small you
it's
won't
be a
recognize
microsecond
you're not because I mean no,
8
not even small
microseconds
that,
per mile.
So what we're actually talking about is the rate of change. So nobody doubts that there is cause and effect and a rate of change, right? And then so Einstein posits that each individual object has its own relative rate of change. But when we're talking about rate of change, that's not really the same thing as time. You know what I
mean? It is time. Time is just change. And time only affects things made of matter or energy. If there's no matter or energy, there's no space. There's no space if there's no matter. Yeah, if there's no matter or energy, there's no concept of space or time.
When I say tomorrow or next year, that's a pretty different concept than saying I am aging faster or slower.
Yes. Well, it's different and the same because tomorrow is not universal. It's only tomorrow on Earth. Tomorrow on Earth isn't the same as tomorrow on Venus or Jupiter, right? But Venus and Jupiter age at a different time relative to Earth, right? Because of how far away they are from the sun or how fast they're moving, how slow they're moving. They age relative to each other. But, time on Earth isn't the same as time on Jupiter.
What physically causes change to occur?
Matter and energy.
Decay.
On the quantum level.
What causes it? Decay.
Why can let's say an atom, right? What is causing that atom that's going close to the speed of light to change slower than one that's stationary?
Yes, what?
So you want to know why?
What atom are you saying that's going to the speed of light? First of all,
any random atom, right?
An easy way to explain this is that when Einstein talked about this shit, he said that everything moves through space-time at the speed of light. So everything always is moving through space-time at the speed of light. And so if you move slower through space, then you'll move faster through time. But if you move faster through space, then you'll move slower in time to make sure that you're always going. So your vector through space-time is always the same. Like if you drew a 4-dimensional grid and you drew the vector so that it was always going at c. If you change it so that you're going faster through space, you'll need to sacrifice that in the time. So you'll have to go slower in time.
Right. So that is the math of it, right? But why is that the case on the quantum scale or what is actually physically creating this effect of time?
Matter and energy.
Matter doesn't just create time. You'd have to explain what about matter is creating the time. What about the quantum reality or whatever is actually why is time a physical thing rather than just a mental concept?
It's a good question. I suggest you look up the arrow of time and do some reading.
I don't understand what you mean
watch that movie Interstellar.
By why is time a physical thing? We're affected by time. When we change, we call that time, right? It's real, but to say physical, I don't know. But it's real. We're affected by time. Now it seems the faster we move or the more mass we have, the less time has an effect on us. That question that you're trying to ask there now, why? I don't know if there's an answer for that, man. You know, I think the example Kosher gave you is a pretty good example, but I do understand it doesn't answer that question you're asking. You know, fundamentally, why are matter and energy always changing? Why are
well,
they
I'm
affected?
slowing down time because my mass is increasing.
Yes, but you're still being affected by time until you reach the speed of light. That's where causality and the laws of physics don't apply to you anymore. At the speed of light, the idea is time and space stand still for you, right? And once you break that speed limit, everything reverses. So you have effect before cause. Time or the arrow of time.
It doesn't stay still.
Moves backwards.
It doesn't stay still. You get there instantly.
At the speed of light. Yeah, you get there instantly. That means no time has passed. For light, time doesn't affect it. Light is the same age it is today as it was at the beginning of the universe. It's not affected by time. It goes anywhere instantly. You know, there's no time that has lapsed because of its movement, though.
The electric and magnetic field, though, the ladder that it creates to get a distance, how would it perceive that as it's doing that little 90-degree phase shift? It's got to make, you know, X number of trillion of those phase shifts as it covers that distance.
But why does it take so long for light to get from one point to another?
Because of the way light travels between things, how it interacts with matter, it is absorbed and reabsorbed. The more matter, the more of this needs to happen.
Oh, so it gets tired as it gets to us.
It doesn't get tired. It's just that it has to.
So it takes a longer route.
You know?
It takes a longer route. Nicely.
But I think
that's a nice way to put it.
When you said that it doesn't age, that's probably where it's got confusing because, of course, from our experience, time passes. I think he's saying from the perspective of the light, it doesn't experience time, but it also doesn't really experience anything. So
it's impossible because you can't not experience time, but yet still end up at the destination. So clearly that's not what we're talking about. We're not talking about time. We're talking about a rate of change. It makes sense to say.
Sounds illogical.
It makes sense to say that a photon doesn't change, but to say that it doesn't go through time, yes, it does, because there's.
I just said that. It goes through time from our perspective, but if photons had brains, which they don't, then they couldn't experience. They wouldn't experience that passage of time. But from our perspective, of course, it travels at the speed of light from one spot to the next. So.
No, because having a brain isn't. To experience time, you don't need a brain. Any object can experience time. Because if a coffee mug isn't going through time, that means it'll never reach its destination.
From its perspective, but its perspective is not important and it's irrelevant. From our perspective, the ones that matter because we have brains that can think and see, experience things in a meaningful way, that light has a speed and it's the maximum speed that everything can travel. But from its perspective, which doesn't matter because it doesn't mean anything, it's not. It doesn't experience time at all.
How would we perceive that if we were traveling at 99% the speed of light and we're looking at our trip to Jupiter? Would it look like Jupiter just raced up on us, like at faster than the speed of light?
It would come to you. It would look like it's coming to you. And me looking at you traveling at the speed of, in the vector or direction you're traveling in, space would contract. So what's that?
You should look up more because actually it looks like it's getting further away from you at first. It's weird.
Really? We were talking about this like the other night, and I feel like the only way to travel at the speed of light is not probably in a physical form or on a spaceship, it's probably through transporting through radio signals or something like that. Because so let's say we broke the body down into data and sent that data across, from point A to point B, like one planet to that. Then your data, as it's traveling at the speed of light, that's probably the only way you could time travel, so to speak. Do you get what I'm saying?
That's pretty cool, man.
They get the whole problems is it you or is it just a replica of you because you've been destroyed to transport you?
All I have to do is fall towards a black hole and just miss it by a millimeter. That'll get me up pretty relativistic speeds.
I posted what Kosha was talking about in the chat. It's really fucking non-intuitive, I have to say.
Have you guys seen the Elon Musk Interstellar video?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter whose perspective we're talking about. If from one perspective an object never reaches its target, and from another perspective it does, that can't coexist.
It can. The same thing happens in a black hole. Like if you look at a black hole, something's falling into it. From their perspective, it'll go normally, and they'll probably die pretty quickly. But from somebody watching it, they'll get closer and closer, and then at one point, they'll just seem like they're freezing, and then they'll look like they're just turning invisible. But that's because, from the two perspectives, one is moving, and one is not moving.
It only makes sense when we say it like this: the photon's rate of change is 0. That makes sense. It can still reach its destination with a 0 rate of change, but when you're talking about it's never going to get there because of time. Well, motion must be separate from time then, because it is moving.
But that's what I said. That's why the way he said it was an incorrect way of saying it. It's not that it never gets there. It gets there from its perspective. It happens instantly.
Yeah, I should have put in perspective there because that isn't.
From your perspective, if you're going 99% of the speed of light, you're going slower than someone who's stationary.
No one's saying that. You're going faster than them, but you experience time slower, less. Your watch would tick slower.
Yeah, your rate of change is slow.
Exactly. The faster you move, the slower your rate of change.
But your motion, you're still going the same speed, regardless of how you experienced it.
You're accelerating towards the speed of light, aren't you? So your speed is changing.
Well, I mean, whatever speed you're at.
Actually, from your experience, you'll get there faster, and from their experience, you're obviously going very fast. But even from your own experience, the location you're getting to you're going to get there faster than like if you're going to Alpha Centauri, you'll get there faster than 4 years from your perspective.
But you will get there in 4 years.
Yeah, if you were playing paddleball, you'd still be waiting for the ball to reach you at the speed from the wall. You'd throw it, and all of a sudden you'd be at Alpha Centauri. The ball would, as you slowed down, then the ball would come back to you. Sounded better when I was thinking it up.
No, but yeah, from someone's, if you were going to Alpha Centauri at something like 99% the speed of light, or 99.9 or something like that, then from someone on Earth, if you sent a signal when you got there back to Earth, it would take the 4 years it took you to get there, times 99%, and then the time it takes light to come back. That's what they would experience on Earth. But for you would have gotten there a little bit faster. I don't know, something like 3 years or something. I gotta look up the exact value.
Yeah, you'd say, "Hey, I got here and it only took me 2 years." And
it would take the Earth would still orbit the sun the same number of times, regardless of how fast you went. You would just have aged slower.
No, actually, it would turn as if you traveled 4 years. It would make 4 circuits. And at the speed of light, you would have experienced no time.
So let's say we sent my data to another dimension, right? Let's say Andromeda, like a distant star. It would take like for people to receive that message would take but it would be kind of instantaneous for me while I'm in that form when I'm traveling at the speed of light in data. Does that make sense?
You said data. I thought you said date anyway.
Data form. So if someone breaks you down and puts you into like a signal and sends you over radio, breaks down your somewhere we can body and put it into like radio waves.
Romy, I think you're in La La Land.
Well,
wait.
First problem is how are we going to go to the light speed? If you go light speed as a material, as a once you hit them sort of speeds, like how's your atom still going to be hold together when they're traveling at the speed of light? Like your whole body would break down.
I don't know.
If you're accelerating at 1G, like Earth's gravity, then your body should
I'm with Brommy. I believe in the Star Trek transport.
Yeah, that's basically it. Yeah, the Star Trek transporter is probably the way to travel at night.
Brommy's talking just a long range distances.
But the Star Trek transporter was a murder machine.
We're back to
the warp drive. You've got the warp drive.
It's like the Prestige. It killed you, but made another one. Is that?
Yeah. We know that.
Oh, I've heard this. Have you guys?
A copy of Riker.
The paradox of.
Yeah, that was the point that I made earlier. Is if you transport something, is it the thing you've transported, or is it a replica of the thing you've transported?
Yeah. Hang on, I got a really good video on that. I don't know if you guys have heard of minute physics, guys.
So if time is the fourth dimension, that means you can move through the other the spatial dimensions while still not moving through time. Well, not you, but a photon.
So, because the arrow of time is one way. It's not possible to have a movement in the three vectors without time. I'm not seeing how that works.
Because photons don't move through time. When you go the speed of light, your time is.
What you're saying is right. Photons move through space and not through time. That is correct.
You are basing all of that on the A theory of time, and there's obviously also the B theory of time.
Okay, what's the B theory?
It's called simultaneity. All things actually happen at exactly the same point. It's just the fact we perceive it in a linear fashion.
And is that a credible theory, or is that like a crackpot theory?
It's not a crackpot theory. It's actually something that's got some basis behind it.
What's that Star Trek thing called? Transporter or something? What's it?
You've never seen Star Trek, seriously?
I have, but I can't think of the name of what they call it.
It's just the transporter.
Oh, it's just called transporter.
It's how they get from the ship to the planet's surface.
Well, there's I said, this guy's got a really good video breakdown, and I'm trying to find it.
Sorry, I have to say this. Curved, fuck you for saying fuck Star Trek. Sorry.
Quantum transporter. I found it. I'm gonna link it right now. This guy is. I think he's really good. I mean, he's got 5 million subscribers to prove it. To prove his worth. So take it what it is. A lot of his videos are pretty good, and maybe the flat Earth guys need to watch some of this stuff. I mean, he breaks it down in layman terms for stupid people like me to understand, right?
If the B theory of time is correct, then time doesn't exist.
But that's philosophy. I've never heard of this in physics.
You never heard of this guy?
No, the B theory. I think
the B theory of time in physics. I don't think it exists in physics. I think it is a philosophical argument.
Okay. So if it's not a physical argument, then
great.
Okay. So if we're talking about there's 3 spatial dimensions and 1 dimension of time, right? 4D space-time. And okay, so basically that means that time and your movement through space are divorced. They are related, but they're not mutually like, for example, okay, because intuitively when we think of time, motion is part of that time, right? Like we're thinking, okay, I'm going to the store in the future.
All right. Dude, I'm sorry to
no,
stop you,
because if I'm sitting still, time is still moving.
Yeah, but do you remember what Kosho said earlier? You know, time and space are the same thing, but the way your vector moves through them, the more you move through time, the less you move through space, and the more you move through space, the less you move through time. See it that way. At the speed of light, you're going 100% through space, so you won't move through time at all. If that makes sense.
So you can move and still not go through time, not age.
From the perspective of the thing moving at the speed of light, yes, you won't be affected by time.
But intuitively, people think of motion as part of that rate of change, right? If you're
because
a different
we
place,
don't move at the speed of light. Yeah, because we don't move at the speed of light. It's only at the speed of light that time doesn't affect you. Any speed slower, and you're affected by time. So we're safe saying motion is time, because we'll never reach light speed.
Or at least, yeah, no, I don't know.
No,
in whatever
yeah,
construct we see
How
it.
about this? How about time is a lack of motion or lack of light speed motion?
Yeah, I just watched that 2-minute video. Yeah, that's what you mean about fucking destroying the original copy, isn't it? It's like getting rid of the master copy, and then it's a copy of the copy, isn't it?
The Minifidix video?
Yeah, that's one. Yeah.
It's only 2 minutes long. I mean, I implore everyone to go watch it, but he's got some great concepts about like things and whatever and all this stuff. He's right up our alley, but
hey, Brahmi, I just invented a transporter and I need a test subject. You game?
The screwy one that screws with your brain is.
It does scare me a little bit, to be honest. I'd have to send someone's dog through first and see if it does the same tricks.
How about an apple first? Not even a living thing.
Have you heard of the paradox box one, where like if you didn't know what was in the box, but was in the box before you observed the box, would it still be in the box? That kind of shit.
That's what you could do.
Schrodinger's cat.
You could get the person before they go into the teleporter to to basically put a ball under a cup so they know which ball the cup's under. Then go to the teleporter, and then the only way they would be to know they're the same person if they'd come straight out, walk to the right one, and pull it up straight away. You know what I mean? And then they'd have to like recite something that they said before, and you'd have to test on them and all that. It'd be really interesting.
Brummy, what if I could promise you'd come out bigger, if you know what I mean, at the end? Would you still go?
I mean, it just boggles the mind, some of this stuff. I mean, I get where SE's coming from, where it's like, man, this is hard to understand, or I understand it this way, or something like that. But I mean, in the end, when you got 50,000 plus people, we'll say millions of people or whatever, agreeing that this is the way it's working right now, then you can't necessarily argue with that. I mean, there's always a difference of an opinion, but at the end of the day, commonality of humanity's brain working together as one is what gets us doing stuff around.
They're using the fruits of science, like to argue that science is not. You know what I mean? Like, they're on the internet arguing about science ain't that good. Do you know what I mean? Like the fruits of science you're using to kind of deny science. It's kind of mad.
Yeah.
Even if nobody ever agreed with me and I knew I was right about something, I mean, I wouldn't say that. Obviously, it's more likely you're probably wrong if the whole world disagreed with you. But if I wouldn't. Sometimes I don't try to cling on to the fact that more people agree, therefore it's true.
Yeah, and then he's trying to argue that we're all whatever under some kind of spell. But it's like, dude, there's more brain power as a collective whole than there is one. So figure it out.
Well, here's the issue: is most people are not experts on physics and time and all of these abstract concepts. They think of time intuitively. So most people still accept Einstein's version of time, right? But they're trying to take that theory and then make sense of it with their intuitive understanding of time. But those two concepts aren't necessarily they're not necessarily accurate, right? They could be.
They're not in relation to what the scientist knows or is speaking about. Correct. Yeah.
So you can say that time
relativity is it kind of points more towards the B theory of time than the A theory of time, as I understood it. But physics is not my strong point, so I'm gonna die on that hill.
Yeah, you can say that time doesn't exist in the intuitive sense because time doesn't work the way that we think of it in the socially constructed way, right? Like, oh, and tomorrow I'm going to be at the train station. Well, that's not how Einstein's theory really.
No, Einstein's theory, Newton's theories don't speak of that. That's just, Earth time.
Yeah, I think I watched a video a long time ago about somebody sitting on a park bench and the car goes by you at, the speed of light, but you're still there. You never even knew it went by, and just some big old words and other things. And I kind of understood the concept of it, even though I didn't understand.
I'd expect you to have been ripped in half there by the sound wave that it probably caused at the speed of light.
It was just a concept video of trying to explain time while you're sitting there on a bench and everything else is moving in relation to you.
That film, what's that film called? Lucy, and she gets like her brain becomes like 100%, and she on about like if you speed up the car infinitely, it'll just disappear. Have you seen that?
Yeah, I like that film.
And that's basically what you're talking about right now, isn't it?
Film is called Lucy.
Yeah, and
starring the girl that plays the Black Widow in the Avengers.
Oh, wait, hang on.
Scarlett Johansson.
I'll try and get that. I'll try and get Scarlett.
I'm really awful with actors' names.
Is that the one where like she moves her body in like molecules and stuff?
Yeah, it gets really freaky weird. It's pretty normal, sort of 3/4 way through the film.
I think I have that one. I think I bought that one. Yeah, I bought that movie. It's not that bad. I'll have to watch it again. It's been a while, but I think I bought that one on Vudu.
Is that the movie where her brain is like at 100%?
Yeah,
she can do any.
I'm trying to find the clip where she explains it about the speed of the car and how you speed it up infinitely and it just disappears. I think that's what the guy was saying. So it just reminded me of that. That's all.
Well, again, if you're going to sort of apply the whole special relativity shit and stuff moving that fast, the fact that you're talking about a car moving at the speed of light means that car would have no inherent mass in itself. Because if it did have mass in itself, not mass gained from momentum, then it wouldn't be able to go the speed of light because there wouldn't be enough energy to make it go the speed of light.
Yeah, it's the time
As I
stamp
understand it. Open to corrections, anybody.
I don't know.
Say what? Wait, Cross, what did you say?
If you watch that video at 1:19, it will show you the thing that he was on about.
So if you have, if we're talking about a theoretical car moving at the speed of light, we would have to say if we're applying, special relativity, as I understand it, we would have to then, it would entail that the car in itself would have no mass and it could only have mass from momentum. Otherwise, there wouldn't be enough energy to make it go at the speed of light.
Yeah, Coach, I looked in the article you posted about traveling through space-time and speed of light. It's a bit bullshit. It's from Brian Greene about his one idea about the velocity, about the 4 vector of space-time to have the magnitude of c, and so that the magnitude has to remain constant. Therefore, the rest of the values have to adjust according to that. Like, this is the first time I've heard of it, but looking into it, I don't think this has much credence to it.
Talking about the video,
Brian Greene came up with that at all. It's from Einstein.
I understand, but just because he's a physicist doesn't necessarily mean his ideas are 100% true.
From Einstein's theory, is what I'm saying. That Einstein.
No, this is Brian Greene's interpretation of what that is. It's not from Einstein.
I've never read this before today, and I've heard it from 1,000 different people, 1,000 different sources. So, every time I've heard it, actually, it's been.
And then, with all due respect, have you looked into it further? Because it's the first time I heard of it, but I went digging into it further, and this stems from Brian Greene's idea. And like the whole thing about the 4 vector being equal to c is a little bit ludicrous.
Ludicrous speed. That's from Spaceballs.
Yeah, it's funny.
But I mean, I'd check it out because I've only ever heard that. I have other people had confirmed it too, so I don't know.
I've always thought from the perspective of the photon, it doesn't kind of experience time or distance.
Actually, Ross, it's funny you mentioned that because as you were saying that, I said this is simply inaccurate. A good way to see it is inaccurate is to note that the ray of light doesn't even have a 4 vector that can be normalized this way. As you said that, I was just reading that.
Yeah. As I say, my physics is shit, so I am only repeating what I've read or heard, and I also understand the limitation of what I know
Rummy,
about
you're not right. Just because a movie says time
There's my evidence. It's unrefutable, provable. You know what I mean? Beyond reasonable doubt.
But I mean, it is a nice idea that she presented, right? If something's moving at the speed of light and we can't see it, how do we know that it exists?
You have to use units. You have to measure it with time, innit? You know what I mean? She's using 100% of her brain, bro. You can't argue with someone who's using 100% of their brain.
I mean, I watched something about what is it?
Everyone's using 100% of their brain.
I'm only using a fraction of my brain power, man. Only a fraction, man. I wouldn't. It wouldn't be fair if I used it all. Lucy's on my level, man. She's on my level.
Well, what's worse is if you watch some of those videos about the space time and bending time and matter. I mean, those get a little crazy with some of the concepts, but I mean, apparently we're close to warp drive speed or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, I think sometimes they like sort of presenting some of the kind of cutting edge ideas, and I think the problem is people take what they take it because it's an authority or what they perceive to be authority saying it. They take it to be this is a fact, where this is theoretical research. And they don't hear it is proposed by or it is thought. You know, they don't hear all these kind of caution words that they throw in.
Which scientists are notorious for doing, but then they're really glossy.
Yeah.
Right. Theories. Yeah.
It's basically it's just a way of covering your ass because this is what's theorized currently. If I'm wrong, you can't hold it against me, and that's just a way of because scientists can be wrong. And they know.
Yeah,
I just demonstrated that because I recognize the limitations of my knowledge.
But we're going to beam Brahmi to Mars, I've decided. In Brahmi, you'll be okay. It's an 8-minute trip. You won't even feel it.
You really want to delete me, don't you?
No, it's going to be like, we need your help. So,
I promise you'll be bigger in quotes when you get there. Okay?
It sounds like
now before I go to bed, you bastard.
What you find the
I have a question.
Get an emo to the group, man. Find some emo. Send him through, man. Somebody wants to kill themselves anyway.
Oh, sorry.
The speed of light thing makes sense. A photon.
I would actually volunteer to press the button.
I have a question.
Coach, I was actually reading that PDF also, so yeah, thanks for that, though.
What's that, Jose?
Is this what I've been listening on YouTube live? Because I was listening. I don't know if it was recorded what I heard or if this live.
Yeah,
because I got a point
it's live, Jose. We're a bit
lagged
on. We're a bit lagged on the live, but it is live. Yeah.
But I heard like half an hour for the past half an hour or so, maybe an hour, when Essie Montreal left. You guys started talking about black holes and speeds, and that was.
What about it?
We're still talking about it.
Yeah. So my question is, are you guys just make shit up like that, and because the majority of the people agreed?
That's how you.
I'm done. I'm not done talking. Who was that interrupting? Brumi? You can contain yourself. Just give me 30 seconds. Just give me 30 seconds. So you guys just make shit up, and because the majority of people just agree with it, and anybody else have an alternative theory to propose, and it might not even get accepted. That's it. We just move on. Just because people don't understand it, we have to just take the stand of the peer review and the majority and accept it. Is that how it works? Just make shit up and believe it.
A couple of questions. Can answer one of them. It's just basically we don't make shit up. It's just that we're experimenting with each other's minds, concepts and ideas, and we trade back and forth. and see what we can come up with, and see, and that's how you get to the next level, right? You all teach each other, or you all help each other with each other understanding. And that's how working together, gets better ideas. But that's all I want to say.
So working together to make up a sci-fi story, for example, I seen prettier movies with better theories than this that I heard of you guys proposing black holes. Even you there going to Star Trek and all that kind of shit. I mean, that's it. So you call experiment that a bunch of people with a lot of ideas, they put the ideas together and say, oh yeah, that sounds about right, and I can pull a mathematical equation to make it work. That's how it works.
No, not really.
Jose, what the hell are you asking?
What we're talking
Honestly,
about
I don't even know what you're asking. Sorry, Russ.
Well, somebody want to answer. So people want to answer. So if you don't understand what I'm asking, you stand back and let others that want to answer.
I'll answer, Jose. Come on, let me get in it. So all I was talking about was what I've read on some of the physics around some of the concepts we're talking about, and I'm repeating what I've read. I've not done the experiments. I've stated the limitations of my knowledge, and I'm saying what I think, and I'm also asking for people's opinions on whether I'm in the right direction, because I'm always open to correcting myself. And if I disagree with them, I will then debate that point.
No way, Jose.
Hey, Jose, I think I see where you're coming from. So basically, the idea is that, see, we like to defend science. There's a lot of people who, attack science, so we want to kind of vigorously defend it, but sometimes that can come across like we are, because we're obviously not experts. We're not like experienced, PhDs or whatever. So we're basing it off our preconceived notions and trying to understand like what we've heard from pop science articles and things like that, right? But kind of come across like we're not really conveying it in an academic way. We're just kind of spitballing and explaining it in layman's terms. So, and oftentimes these theories are proven wrong eventually anyway. So, you kind of have to like realize the vigorous defense of something that you don't really fully understand is a little cringe,
No, I appreciate that. But for example, these theories about the black hole and time and speed, you cannot go further because just an actual better quality picture of the black hole was just taken less than a year ago or about a year ago, right? Before you guys had theories. So for many, many years, many minds put together a lot of data points and repeating. So they put this data put together and you got the picture of the black hole. How the hell are you pulling just theories on how would it work if you get closer to it, or how far it is or how big it is? It's just a lot of, from my point of view, and in layman's term, it's bullshit, all of it.
Okay, cool.
Just story.
I mean,
good, so you don't have to believe in it. What's your point?
From your point of view, that's fair, man.
It's like sparring, you're practicing, you're trying out new things, you find out what does work, what doesn't work, and you're refining your skills, and you're talking with other people, you're getting feedback, and you're working as a team, and you learn different things from each other, and you also learn things about yourself and expanding your mind in a way where you don't really hold yourself to a competition rules or them aspects, because you'd never learn anything, because it's like practice, isn't it? You'd be going to a football team and going, oh, why are you kicking the ball like that? That's not the same as a proper football game. Why are you doing that? It's ridiculous. Well, practicing passing and practicing certain aspects of that game don't particularly mean you have to play to the rules of that game all the time. Does that make sense to you?
Oh, was there a question? I thought you were just kind of ranting.
Okay, cool.
But Jose, it sounds like you're saying all of these theories were just made up from thin air, right? Like it's just fairy tale bullshit imagination on. There's no basis. Is that what you're saying?
No, never say that.
Okay.
All right.
The conclusions are right now. The conclusion that you have as for right now, because it's been peer reviewed and accepted by the majority of scientists, even though you're still developing and adding and subtracting to it, you are running with the story as for right now, because nobody else has proposed a different theory, Nobody else have come up with a different story, right? But still, just too theoretical. It's too science fiction, and you cannot take that away from me. I am in the William Shatner team. I'm with William Shatner. It's too theoretical. It's just stories.
Okay, you don't understand it. That's all you're saying.
Just some problem. So the problem I've got with that is the fact that we're applying consistent laws and we're looking at observations at the moment, and the best explanation for some of the observations we have are incredibly dense bits of gravity that we've labeled black holes. So as soon as we start to observe stuff that says no, that's wrong, that's when we start to throw it aside. But at the moment, what we seem to observe is really dense bits of gravity that everything seems to whip around that's not producing any light. And we've called them black holes. And we've theorized how they can form based on, again, standard models and observation. And if we see stuff that disagrees with it, just almost finished, if we see stuff that disagrees with it, that's when we start to falsify it, which is why it's a theory and not a fact.
Well,
and because closer to the black hole, all the laws of physics might change, could change, definitely will change. You just propose theories and invent new laws of physics.
What else are we meant to do?
That's all you can do. Exactly, that's all you can do.
What else are we meant to do?
I agree with Jose on that point, which is why they always do lots of, this is what could happen.
Ask him, what else are we meant to do, Jose? What else are we meant to do?
No, I just answered the question with my statement.
But you're saying like a better idea?
Bromy, shut up. Dross is talking.
All right.
The stuff outside that event horizon, Jose, we observe, and we can see what's happening to it and how it's moving and the speed it's moving at. And we take lots and lots of pictures over long periods of time, and we gather all that data. So even though we don't know, and I agree, we don't know what's going to happen if we go over an event horizon. We've got theories about it. Well, I'd say hypothesis about it. But the stuff outside it, we're pretty cool with. Would you say that's fair?
That's totally fair, exactly what I say, because the laws of physics cannot be changed, but only on paper and mathematically, physically and observably, you cannot change the laws of physics. You just proposing new theories, explanations, and possibilities. I call that making shit up. Thank you very much. Exactly what I say. You don't like the term, you don't have to like it. I'm just go with it.
To do. What else can we do?
Thank you, Bromy, for interrupting the end of my statement.
It's called speculation. And
thank you for interrupting the end of my statement, Bromy. That's why I'm interrupting you now.
What else are we supposed to do, Jose?
Let him finish, Bromy, because I wasn't done.
Bromy, let him finish, please. Go ahead, Jose.
So because of that explanation, the laws of physics cannot be changed. It can work on paper, it can work mathematically, and it's what we understand that could happen, might happen, would happen. That is what I call making shit up.
And
you don't have to like it, but that's what I think.
And I call it speculation and practicing, theorizing, and using your mental gymnastics to think of different things, and not just going, I'll just leave it there. What else are we supposed to do, Jose? If you don't know about something, you speculate and you theorize and you.
There's nothing else you can do.
Well,
there's nothing else you can do.
Well, that's what we do. That's what we're doing. You're criticizing people for practicing ideas and flexing ideas.
It's okay. I'm happy with you guys doing that. I mean, what am I going to take out of it? I can make up my own story. I can invent my own laws of physics. And it's not wrong. It's not going to be accepted by the scientific body, and the peer review, because I'm not part of it. But I can make shit up, and it will work for me because I can make the laws of physics just like they do, right?
No.
I'm kind of almost on side with Jose here because. And the only reason I'm going to say this is once you cross an event horizon, you according to our model of physics, you can't come back. So we can't get any information out past the event horizon, as I understand it. So anything that we talk about inside the event horizon of a black hole is theoretical because we can never get.
Thank you. That's all.
Back. Yeah, well, I agree.
And I think that's kind of where I'm still landing Jose. Haven't finished. And I think it's got a point.
But you can't criticize people for being theoretical and for exercising ideas. That's not good. That's counterproductive. There's nothing wrong with flexing ideas and practicing.
Did I say it was wrong at any moment? Did I say I disagree with them at any moment? Did I say you don't do it anymore? Did I say none of that?
You said it's making shit up.
Okay, that's what offends you. Well, just take that phrase out of your brain. I'm gonna keep saying it. You don't have to attack me for the way I express myself. Attack me for the whole content of what I'm saying.
Don't put a negative spin on creativity and fucking ideas. That's ridiculous. You're trying to come in and go, oh, it's making shit up and put a negative stereotype attached to it. So that
it doesn't matter how I say it. I already explained myself what I call making shit up, which is what Dross agree with me, and most of the people agree with me.
No, not most of the people agree with you.
Well, right when you get there, will change.
Dross just white knighted your ass.
If you do, you are disingenuous.
That's a negative.
Dross agree with you on one point of what you said, not your entire statement.
Yeah. And that's what I was going to say. I'm only saying from the point of view that it is speculation what happens beyond the event horizon. But I don't think there's anything wrong with actually exploring the maths and the ideas around it to see if we could try and figure out to be a little bit closer to what does happen there. We may never know, but there's nothing wrong in trying to explore that way, because we may, in doing that, figure out a way to know.
So let me ask you a question. What's your problem? Because you came in here sound like you have a chip on your shoulder.
Yeah, exactly.
Seriously,
I just wanted to comment.
No, you did. You came in here hot. So what is your problem?
Okay, you asked me a question. Can I answer without interruption?
No.
Go ahead.
Well, I don't have any problem. I just wanted to make sure I understood what I was listening. What I was listening is what I explained. Further, that certain point that no human being have been, that the physics hasn't been tested, any human device have been there, none of that, just kind of tested and too theoretical. That's what I'm saying. I just wanted to hear that in my words, making shit up is that the laws of physics can be changed, and who can challenge it other than somebody inside the body of science that can be peer reviewed and accepted by the peers. Nobody else can challenge it because that's the way it works. I just wanted to see if that's what's going on.
So you sound butthurt that you're not involved in the process.
But people can't.
No, I'm not. I don't care. I just wanted to
dude, that's the way you sound. Dude, you came in hot, and really, that's the way it sounds like.
It's kind of like when you go into these theoretical things, Jose. It's kind of exercising what you do know against theoretical, and it helps you learn about the subject, even if it's going a little bit into more into the theoretical side of things. Yeah. And it's entertaining.
And there's nothing wrong. It's not making shit up. That's a negative term for something of experimenting and exercising ideas and theorizing. That would be more of a positive outlook on it. Coming in saying you're just making shit up is very negative and very derogatory. So you do owe everyone an apology.
I don't think he owes anyone an apology, but my thoughts are I was sort of agreeing with you and pretty much until you got to the negative bit at the end. And so I kind of agree with you, and I agree with Brummer. I think that again, this is a natural consequence of working from a position of not having knowledge of something to having knowledge of something. It requires that we propose hypotheses.
I appreciate that. Thank you, and thank you all for the feedback. That's all. I just wanted to just bring my own take on what I heard, and I understand totally what you guys say, and I will just listen in the background. I'm busy over here. Thank you for your time.
I mean, it's brilliant, and I apologize. The apology thing was a joke, and I don't really apologize either. But I thought it'd be funny to fit that in, but. It is kind of like practice.
Jose, I wanted to thank you also for being like the FE Spanish channel. It's pretty good, man.
Thanks, man.
Yeah. I forget what the name of the channel was, man. What was the name of that fucking channel? AVN? Don't you do a show, Jose, where it's like or I don't know if you still do that. Didn't you do a show where you have like your show and then you have like a Spanish show? I don't know if you still do that.
Nah, I did it once, and the time I did it, what happened? Something happened that I couldn't do it on the weekends. Either the internet crashed or the computer broke on the weekends. I couldn't. Oh, I lost my live stream capabilities for a few weeks.
Oh yeah.
So after my first show, I got copyright strike and I couldn't continue. But I might do it one time. Now I'm almost situated. By Monday, I think I'm all set to kick off the live shows daily in the morning again. So I'm still working in my new place, readjusting and doing other stuff.
Spanish speaking FEers. I know a couple in 24/7, but I don't know how many people you got.
I know the ones is Cynical Skeptic speaks Spanish, Matrix Media speaks Spanish. Those are the flat earthers.
Of course, Renee.
And then we got Carlos. Yeah, the Glovers. We got Carlos speaks Spanish. Holulipa, the Holulipa Spanish guy, Dominican, he speaks Spanish. Myself, and I know there's a few more from the Holulipa group. He told me he was gonna talk to them next time I go live. So I know. I hope I can get a hold with Iru, maybe Iru Landucci and Antonio Subiras, because I want to make a super show, you know. But I know they will not go until it get more popularity and more eyes on it, because last time I had like 20 people watching. They might want maybe more people listening to it.
Earth is seriously flat too, right?
Yeah, but I don't want to do it.
Hey Jose, when you came in, were you trying to say that like you felt it was one-sided or multi-sided against SE for his time concept, saying that it's a theory and blah blah blah, etc.?
Not really. I mean, he put himself in that situation. I kind of also did, not very similar to what he did, but that was on him. I'm not in one side or another. You know, I'm just.
Jose, you came in, as you say, very good. I just think when you just say making shit up, that's kind of just spitting in the face of everybody. But you know,
I understand that. It's like one time when I say, like, oh, are we gonna see cartoons when the rocket go up? Whenever 1 minute, 2 minutes, look at that, cartoons in that rocket launch. What the hell? And people got jump on me and got really offended. I said, cartoons, dude. I just call it cartoons. It could be CGI, computer rendering, demonstration, whatever you want to call it. I just call it cartoons. You don't have to attack me for the way I explain things or whatever.
Yeah, but we all know what cartoons mean, and you're implying that it's fake, and you know that's kind of
and it's intentional.
Hey, that's on you. That's on you. Not me.
Yeah, you're interpreting it wrong.
It is, because I think that, you know, cartoon is something that we use to describe a particular thing. And I have to admit, it bothers me when people use that term, because I just don't think the sort of stuff that's described as cartoon doesn't have any of the characteristics of a cartoon. It just doesn't. That's not a word. It's a deliberately wrong word to try and dismiss it as it's comical, it's a joke, it's for children. Do you know what I mean? It's a deliberately derogatory and totally inaccurate description of what you're seeing.
My family kicked me out. I have to sit on the back porch to eat.
I can call cartoon what is not real. I can call the Toy Story movies cartoon. I can call Shrek or
I don't think you can.
Anything,
I don't think
the new Lion King, even though it looks real, it's cartoon.
Well,
Lion King looks real. You said.
I mean, the old Lion King. I think you could call
the new one looks real.
The old
one,
I think
looks real. It's still not real because it was all made in computer, CGI, green screen, or whatever.
If you said CGI, that would be accurate. But cartoon is not accurate. It's not a term that we would normally use to describe that. You know what I mean?
When I call cartoon, it's like when I call refraction. Refraction can be sinking, lumen, mirage, superior, inferior, fata morgana. I just want to call it as one word, refraction. It's not particularly one. It could be one of the groups. It's like the Plain Truth called Ether Band. I call cartoons to any artistic representation.
That's a bit different.
Not real.
Jose,
that's the way I see it. That's the way I call it.
Go to a rocket launch, right, and take your camera, and you can't go to a cartoon and take your camera, can you? Do you know what I mean? There's a big difference between going to watch a rocket launch and calling it a cartoon, and actually going to watch The Lion King in a cinema screen and calling that a cartoon. Do you know?
Well, I can't even see that rocket when they're showing me these cartoons, like starting the orbit in the atmosphere and doing these things when there's no cameras on it. When a person from land, when they lose, dude, relax, man. When a person is in land recording the rocket, yeah, it's going to be a point that the rocket is not going to be seen by the cameras. You might have cameras mounted on the rockets and you're going to see a little more. And then they're going to show you the cartoons where the cameras are not going to work anymore. So they show you the cartoons of what they are doing, starting the orbit or spitting out the satellites, whatever it is. I call it cartoons. If you don't like it, oh, well, you don't have to swallow it, bro.
You mean when they're in space, you mean? When they drop all the luggage and they separate in space?
Anything that they show that is not real with real cameras, so anything CGI or artistic interpretation, I call it cartoons.
I'm just trying to find out what part of the rocket launch you're calling a cartoon. Is it when they're in space and it looks like the Earth?
No, whatever is not real.
Say to me what part you don't think's real. The launch.
Well, dude, really?
Romy, usually they turn to a computer animation at some point.
Yeah,
right?
computer animation. That's it. That's what I call cartoon. Yeah. Anything. It could be from the rocket is still landing in there, 20 cameras on it, and people saying goodbye. And if they show in the second screen, look at that. This is how the rocket looks inside, and they show you a computer animation of the rocket going on. I say, look at that, cartoons. I know the rocket is there because it's
right. But why not just look at that?
When they switch the camera, I call it cartoons.
But why not just say, look at that computer animation? That's accurate.
It's easier for
cartoon is not accurate. Cartoon is not accurate.
But the word don't come to my mind. I just call it cartoons. It's easy for me.
But what's wrong?
A little bit silly.
What's wrong with just using the correct phrase?
I can't even say computer animation until you guys say it, and then I just caught up and I can call it computer animation.
He's basically saying he can't do it. He can't remember to do
it. I start calling it cartoons.
All right, fair enough.
Do you call blueprints comic strips?
Right.
No, I don't talk about
Why
that.
not?
Because I'm not interested. Have you heard me talking about blueprints ever?
How do we know it's not a language thing with him where he's still trying to understand English and it's easier for him to just say cartoon and he needs to elaborate sometimes, and the elaboration would be that.
Maybe he doesn't deserve my arguing with him about it. However, it is a line, directly from the meme, isn't it? It is a thing that flat earthers. Hang on.
I do.
It is
and
a
it's
thing.
Intentional.
It is the thing that flat earthers say all the time, and I believe, for the reasons I outlined before, it is intentional. So that's why I object to it. But maybe you don't deserve that, Jose. So.
No, but you know what? I'm gonna take one for the team. But the team is me because I'm a one-man gang. I actually know that triggers you guys when I call cartoons. When I say making shit up. So, but I
am shocked, Jose.
I just like stealing shit a little bit sometimes.
No, man.
He's a shit stirrer.
I'm gonna defend you again now.
But what did you say? The argument about definitions, the semantics argument, I'm not good at it at all because I'm not that good. My English vocabulary is not as enriched as yours. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think that when sometimes in the rocket launches when they change in space and they look a bit dodgy, and when I used to watch it with one of my flat Earth friends, he would say look at it, that's supposed to be space, and he'd go, oh, that's fake, it's obviously all CGI now. So it's only when the rocket was in space that he would then start to deny the rocket launch because the cameras had switched when the rocket separates. And that's why I was trying to find out at what point do you call it CGI? At what point do you call it cartoons? That's why I was because I felt like that's where my friend is adamant that it's a cartoon, or not a cartoon, sorry, a CGI. So that's why I was trying to work out what part of the rocket launch is it that you don't like, because you can always go to a rocket launch and watch rocket launches live and take your own camera equipment and see them yourself.
We went through this didn't we? The part where they cut to some CG.
But
yeah, it's not that I don't like it. I mean, it is what it is. I'm actually not a big fan. I watch them sometimes. If I switch to a channel it's on, I watch for a little bit, but I get bored easily. But then it caught my attention when they did this cut and they show the animation, and I go like, whoa, cartoons! Type in the chat and people jump on me quick because I know it triggers people, but it's true. I just want to point at it, the obvious.
Have you ever seen Birdman? About that Best Picture in 2014, 15.
Michael Keaton?
Michael Keaton, yeah, that's right. Because, that movie had
good movie.
cuts in
I
it.
haven't seen that one yet. Is it worth it?
Yeah, that movie doesn't have any cuts. Or might have one cut. But I think it has 0 cuts.
0 cuts?
Yeah, that's why I was like...
And Birdman, there's cuts.
Wait a minute. So, let me hear this right. When it switches camera angle to like a car scene, that's a cut.
Yeah,
I know, but they make it seem like even though there are actual cuts, like they'll pan in a hallway or something, and sometime during that pan,
They do that, really?
So
yeah, that's what all the fuss was about.
Huh? That's interesting. I didn't even notice.
I have to watch that again. I just rewatched it for that for real.
That's a fairly famous technique. It originally done in Rope by Alfred Hitchcock, where the whole thing was done in one take, quote unquote, and has been done several times since. But I saw that movie and did not notice that.
Yeah, there's lots of Zach Galifianakis, who's not a great actor. You can tell there's scenes that are just too long. They usually you have to.
I knew they were long scenes, but I thought they were cut between scenes. But yeah, maybe you're right. You're right. There was one scene with where I thought to myself, yeah, that was a lot of work if they had to redo that. You're right. I do remember.
It says there's 28 cuts that were carefully hidden by the creator. So I guess there was 28 actual cuts, but like I said, they're hidden by they'll pan towards a hallway and then pan out of that hallway or something, and sometimes in there, you could tell that there was a cut.
Okay, I'll have to see that one, but yeah, if it changes from a different frame, then yeah, it's a cut. But if you're saying a zoom in and out and then kind of comes around the corner, you can obscure cuts very well. Yeah.
So those are all obscured. They obscured all the cuts that are in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
17?
What movie?
1917?
Not yet.
Yeah, pretty much to do the same thing.
It's a great movie.
You know what else was an interesting movie for the way they did the cinematography was Stay. Have you ever seen?
Mm-mm. I'm a big movie buff too, but Stay. Let me look.
It's a story about teaching a dog to sit and stay.
No, it's
2005 thriller mystery.
Yeah. It's got
looks like
Ryan
it's
Gosling, and it's got fucking Obi-Wan, the younger one.
Now, there's one famous movie which is shot with one camera, and that is El Mariachi, the Mariachi, with the prequel of Desperado, a Mexican.
Are you talking about Evan McGregor?
Yeah, Ewan McGregor, yeah, and Naomi Watts and a couple other people.
Yeah, this 2005 one. There's 9 different movies in the past 10 years called Stay.
Yeah, it's the 2005 one, yeah.
2018, 17, 13.
Jose, I've got a brother. My son-in-law is named Charles Rodriguez. Do you know him? He's from Puerto Rico.
Maybe, who knows? Maybe. There's I gotta maybe go through 4 or 5 million people. Maybe I know.
I remember when I was in the Navy, some guy came up to me. He's like, "Oh, you're from New York? Do you know Mike Smith?" I'm like,
"Yeah, right."
I'm from fucking New York.
That's why there's a lot of Puerto Ricans in the Navy, though. No, a lot of Dominicans, Puerto Ricans.
There's an interesting thing about the way they filmed this movie, though. But I can't exactly say what it is, because it's one of those things where you watch the movie and there's certain things that are going on the entire time, and you won't be aware of it until the end. And once you know that thing, if you were to watch it a second time, you'd how did
the whole movie.
I didn't notice this? How did this go right over my head? You know what I mean?
Whoa. That's what they hide it intentionally from you, don't they? Like they don't, they when you know what's going to happen, it's easy to kind of clock on.
Yeah, but this is sort of like something that is.
But don't you get other movies where you do know what's going to happen and you can work it out, especially like Marvel ones where they all fall out, they all show off their powers.
I don't mean that. I don't mean it's not like a character thing. It's not like a story thing. It's more like shit, right? Like, those experiments that they've done where they'll like put up a piece of video footage and say like count the number of times that
the dancing gorilla.
Yeah, and then they're like, oh, "Did you see the fucking gorilla?" And a lot of people are like, "What fucking gorilla?" Right?
Yeah.
So, right. It's almost like that's going on the entire movie.
I'm still quite unsure what you mean though. Like you're watching a film and you think to yourself, "How did I not know?" And it's something that's like basically right in your face the whole movie, but you can't pick up on it. Is that what you mean?
Have you ever seen Fight Club?
It's like it's very similar.
Talking about shit hidden in plain sight, right?
Yeah.
Talking about shit hidden in plain sight that you don't see the first time.
I was wondering if Brumman seen it because there's that one scene where she has sex with Tyler Durden, and she says, "I haven't fucked like that since grade school." Can you believe that?
Which film is that called, Kosho?
It's Fight Club. You never seen Fight Club?
Is that with Brad Pitt?
Yeah, Brad Pitt. Yeah.
I've seen it. I can't remember it though.
What the fuck?
I just remember him getting up off the floor and in that snatch actually. I can't remember if he gets up off the floor.
How can you not have seen that movie, Brummy?
I have.
Old movie, man.
I mean, especially for someone who's like a boxer. And all that. Do you know what I mean?
I just don't remember it. It's just like a flip off the floor and he knocks some geezer out because he's all punched up. I remember that one scene where he hits
man,
that's
you don't remember.
I don't know then. Yeah, I can't remember it.
Yeah, watch Fight Club tonight. Maybe we'll watch it in the VC, man. We'll watch it in
You've absolutely got to watch it, Brummy. It's definitely a movie for you.
But tell you what, nobody spoiled it for him because it was spoiled for me, and that's one of my disappointments in life. Is that I haven't seen it after.
You haven't seen it yet by now. Spoiler alerts all over.
Yeah, it's like the movie The Sixth Sense. If you haven't seen it, it's easy to spoil.
A guy spoiled that for me on a plane one day. I met him for like an hour, and he spoiled like that movie and another movie for me too. Insane guy.
You haven't seen it, Brummy? The big twist where he pulls a pants off and he's got a cock.
I'm just watching the trailer now. I can't remember it at all.
No, it's a good movie. It's a really good movie. Decent.
Yeah, I don't know if this movie's as good as Fight Club, but it is good in its own way. And like, there's also a lot of really interesting, like they just use a lot of interesting camera work for transitions. Like, there's a lot of like. There aren't a whole lot of hard cuts and stuff. Like they'll like zoom into a reflection and switch scenes and Stay. It's.
Oh, okay, I got it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's got like pretty interesting cinematography.
But first, I've been through a lot of shit, man. I've done a lot of drinking and drugs since I watched that. That's 1999. Like, I can't remember fucking last week. What I
I hear you. It is a movie that people tend to remember, I think, because of the nature of it. It is a very memorable movie. I think
it's shot very well too. Yeah,
there's a bunch of movies that age well, like The Rock with Nicolas Cage and Sean Connery. That's an awesome movie, for real. Face Off is a good movie with John Travolta. Dude, you gotta rewatch that in this year because it's fucking fantastic.
Nicolas Cage used to be good, yeah.
Hell yeah, that was his peak, man. With The Rock, Face Off, Connery.
Well, one of my favorite movies is Doctor Strangelove, which was made, I think, in the 50s, I guess. That's a great movie.
Back when
I learned about the bomb.
Yeah, that's the one.
Strangelove is a pretty good film.
Oh my god!
Snake Eyes. Is it Snake Eyes? The one with Nicolas Cage or?
Snake Eyes.
So now I'm talking.
and of course, there's the greatest movie ever made.
No. What's the one where?
What did you say, Jim?
Grease, the greatest movie ever.
Yeah. That's what I thought you said. I love them. I was talking about that last night.
Grease lightning, go. No, Grease lightning, go. Grease lightning.
Was Nicolas Cage on Lord of War?
What?
Lord of War.
Gem, I'm not familiar with this. Tell me more. Tell me more.
One where, like, I'm thinking of, and they're like, "You got Snake Eye." Oh, it is Snake Eyes, 1998. That one doesn't get a lot of credit, and it's pretty good.
One film
How
I
about
watched.
Tim Burton's Superman? Tim Burton's the untold story of Superman with Nicolas Cage.
The Nicolas Cage
Hey,
one.
Brummy,
Good one,
Brummy.
Flashburn.
What's up?
I want to say
I'm
Nicolas
operating
Cage's career might have
I'm
went down.
operating a steel. I'm operating a steel drill here, Brummy. Please don't sing.
What's that? Why don't I get it?
He's gonna. He might kill himself just to get away from your song.
Oh, I get it now. Thanks a lot. I'm so
I just
slow.
made that.
One of my favorite films was it's like a low budget film, and I didn't know what it was. I just press play and it came on, and it was really good. It was called Senseless. Senseless. It was called. It was like a low budget film, and it's fucking. If you don't know what it's about when you watch it, I feel like that was for me what sold it for me. If I tell you what it's about, and you watch it, I feel like I can rather spoil it from people if they want, or you can just watch it without have a preconception of it, and then because I didn't know what I was getting into, and that's what was really good because neither does the guy on the film, and you go on this journey with this guy, and it's so traumatizing.
Which one is this?
It's called Senseless.
Okay.
Yeah, sounds familiar.
I don't know. People harp on Nicolas Cage, but the dude's won a lot of awards, blockbuster awards. You know.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I don't know why they hit on
Academy
him
Award.
so bad.
He won the Academy Award, dude. He won the
MTV
Academy
Music Awards.
And the Superman movie that almost.
I feel like Nicolas Cage just takes all the roles and sees what sticks because some of them are terrible and some of them are great. You know?
Don't you just Superman would have sucked?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It would have been an awesome movie, man. The documentary is fantastic, bro. You gotta watch that shit.
Why do I got a feeling if I watch this, I would think he's like hired drunk all the time, kind of like Hancock.
Oh, it's funny. It's good shit, man.
Nicolas Cage's mom or aunt a actress? I think he comes from a family of actors, right?
There's a lot of costume text in here and little lines and shit.
No,
like isn't he related somehow to the director?
Isn't he linked to the Coppola?
No. Yeah, Coppola. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was Scott. Scott told me that. Scott lies and cheats. So I don't know what to say, man.
His sister is the daughter of the man.
I've linked the film, boys. If you want to watch that Senseless film and you want to go on a little ride, man, but try not to read this description because it'll ruin it for you.
All right, I'm just kidding about Scott, by the way. I think it was either Scott or Cordis who said that. It might have been Cordis.
I can't see Nicolas Cage as a superhero. I mean, maybe like a scientist.
Ghost Rider.
What?
Yeah,
What are you
he
talking
played
about?
Ghost Rider.
Yeah, Ghost Rider.
And he also kick
He would have made a good Ant-Man.
Tim Burton already did Batman. You know, nobody thought that Michael Keaton was going to be a good Batman. They thought like, oh, what a fucking Joker. And this guy, he just did Multiplicity, he plays like a retard. And he, you know, all this other bullshit that he did. And he did actually, he's one of my favorite Batmans.
I said Ant-Man. Cage would have made
Nicolas Cage could have been a good Hulk with crazy eyes.
Well, every time I see Johnny Depp, I just think of Pirates of the Caribbean. I can't never not see him going, good night, give me some rum. Like,
Remember Johnny Depp
ingrained
in
with
the
that.
first Freddy Krueger movie? Remember Johnny Depp in the first Freddy Krueger movie? Get swallowed with the TV by the bed.
Some people play their role so well that they eternalize that character, don't they? Then their face will never be the same again.
It's Harrison Ford. Like, he's never gonna shake Han Solo, and he's pissed about it, but he's happy about it in his interview.
I think depending on how he played it, Nicolas Cage could have made an alright Doctor Strange.
You say he's never going to shake Han Solo? He did so many roles since then.
No, but like his most famous role of all time.
Come on, I think it's probably Indiana Jones.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I call him more Indiana Jones than Han Solo.
Home Alone, he's stuck with that, and I don't think he could ever do another film. Macaulay Culkin.
Aren't they working on another Indiana Jones movie right now?
Steven Spielberg stepped out. Yeah, Steven Spielberg dropped the gloves. He said, "I'm not gonna do Indiana Jones." So a new director, I don't know his name. They might be working on it, and now they can maybe tweak it a little bit but they say that Harrison Ford still gonna be in the movie. Now he might be playing like a professor or some shit like that, you know. But remember, right now Harrison Ford is older than when Sean Connery played his dad in Indiana Jones. It's crazy.
I'm waiting for Top Gun 2. I mean, I think it's right around the corner, like 10 days away. June 20th, maybe, is it? Or is it pushed back?
When is it coming out?
I don't know. I thought it was June 20th. Let me check.
Yeah, I don't see. No, Tenet is the biggest movie. It's coming in July 16, I think it is. But it's for the big. But there's one coming in the first. There's a few movies coming in July the 1st and by the end of June. But this one,
my God.
I haven't seen trailers.
They're pushing it back to
they're
December.
pushing it.
Holy crap. I've been waiting forever to see this.
It makes sense, though, because they don't want to lose money.
Yeah, Russell Crowe's movie is coming in July 1st, and it looks good. The new Russell Crowe movie.
Like Gladiator too.
I'm definitely.
It's a road race. It's a road race movie. He's a crazy dude with a truck or whatever, just following a family, a lady and a kid or something. It looks good. Look at the trailers. New Russell Crowe movie.
Coach, Gladiator 2 was Robin Hood. And it was a flop.
Kosho, you can buy videos now. You can rent them early on like VOD. You can see them in theaters. You pay like $14. You get it for like 24. So there's no excuse why they can't release it. I mean, they've got avenues that they can put these videos on from the.
I know. I think they're probably just wanting to get more money doing that. Unless they got like a contract with like Netflix, like what's that movie The Interview did? If they got like a contract outright and they pay them $1 billion or something, because that movie could probably make $500,000 or $500 million in the theaters. So unless they're gonna make that, they're probably not gonna bother releasing it, or until they can do that.
Wasn't the problem because the movie theaters got scared because of North Korea?
Yeah, that was that movie. Yeah, they got scared from the. They thought it was North Korea, but it was what is it called? That one. How was it called? Lizard. Some bullshit lizard shit. Like there was like hackers online. Lizard Squad. That's what it was. Lizard Squad.
Man, this sucks, dude. My whole summer is gonna blow then if all that. Because I mean, there's Mission Impossible 7 next year, and oh man,
I started this year going 2020 vision. I'm going it's gonna be a really good year for me. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do that. And all I've done is got fat and fucking just like put on weight and just my whole life's just been shit. You know what I mean? Like it's 2020.
I saw they're gonna call next year 2020, so that way we can do 2020 again.
I know.
So everything that was supposed to happen this year, just gonna do it next year.
Don't count, man. This shit
And next year is 2020.1. It'll be the actual.
But the Olympics really are happening next year, though, so it's kind of weird.
Are they though?
I don't really care about
that.
This year don't count, man.
2020 canceled.
I mean, I'm more interested in releases of like movies and technology and stuff and all that kind of stuff. And it seems like everything's just doesn't exist this year.
We just
2020 shut down, right? A lot of places that would normally be putting the finishing touches on shit. So.
Guys, do you think the virus will go extremely high because of the riot?
I don't think that's unlikely. I don't know how likely it is, but it's.
But that means the virus could have been staged, maybe.
No.
Because we were opening up. We were kind of opening up anyway, so. I mean, it's a 1 week early, a week and a half early. Who cares? At this point, I think we've done all that we can, and it's going to be what it is. I mean, we're all going to be getting herd mentality here in the next couple months, or eventually there's going to be just new cases. But I think we're kind of past the peak and past all that stuff. I think we did enough to suppress it in the first month and a half to almost 2 months, because technically we were all staying away from each other. So I think
if everything opens back up, and there's more cases in the general population circulating than there were the very few cases that spread it to near epidemic levels in the first place. It's inconceivable for it to re-spread quite badly again.
I mean, it's possible, but we don't know how many people are quote unquote asymptomatic. I mean, if you had better estimations for people that were symptomatic and who have been through it and quote unquote can't get it again, vice versa, then
until we have those estimations, I don't think that it's safe to say that it won't happen or that it will happen, right? Like,
I mean, I guess. I mean, I get what you're saying. Like, it could peak again, but you know, I guess
there's an awful lot of people who suspect that it will.
Yeah,
right?
but we can't just. It's like anything else. You can't just live in fear. You're just gonna have to eventually.
I agree, but it does seem like that if the virus was real, then the numbers should soar. Like, and I feel like if
but
it doesn't soar,
it would take around 2 weeks to see that starting to actually soar, right? Like, it takes up to 14 days for symptoms to start displaying in any way that's severe. For some people, they may only have mild symptoms. They may spread things from there for a while. So, like, we won't see the direct impact of what these riots will do on the spread of cases until, like 2 or 3 weeks from now, if there's some noticeable and the other side of it is we also won't see that if people aren't tested, right? So, like, even if there's a bunch of new cases, if they're unreported cases because people don't go in and get checked because they just feel like, it's just a little cold, right? They may have the virus, but just have not a serious version of it, just never get checked.
Right, but you're going to see it in the number of people who get it severely. So the numbers that we've been tracking publicly will go up.
Exactly. So, like, it'll.
I just feel like there isn't a lot of cases. I feel like I've been lied to about the virus, but I'm pretty sure there's some people that can confirm that they've lost loved ones or they know people that.
I've known people who've had it. I know a few people who've had it. I know 2 people who have died. So,
well, good luck to you, because that's a lot of numbers against you if you've had contact.
I haven't had contact with any of those people, luckily.
My son-in-law tried to kill me, the best.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you, how's it going?
So far, nothing. And the odds are, I mean, he wasn't coughing when I was with him, so I mean, he wasn't like presenting a lot of symptoms or anything, and he hasn't been proven to have it yet. He's tomorrow we'll find out.
Oh, the test tomorrow.
The results tomorrow.
All right.
So you might have it then, Moyo?
I spent 6 hours in a car with him on Saturday.
Yeah, you're gonna die.
We all laugh.
That breaks that 6-foot rule is pretty severe.
One less stupid fucking glober.
Hey, flat earthers just increasing their percent of population.
You'll be all right, man. I think apparently 2% of people die of it anyway. Well, sorry for the lost ones that you know of, but I don't think it was as I thought people. How old were they? By the way, let me ask you these 2 friends.
It's 2% of people who receive treatment, right?
Okay.
So that's the other part of it, and this is why there's still doctors that are cautioning, right? Is like, if people didn't get treatment, then the number of deaths would increase pretty significantly because some of these people are very severe. If they were left untreated, they would die, right? And some people are so severe that even treated, they're going to die anyway. Now,
how old are they?
Some of these are even younger people. Plus, you have this other thing that's hitting even younger people, like that's causing. It's causing a super immunoresponse, and potential heart damage to young people. Like, there's And this has been now confirmed, right? Like, so it's not just a bad flu. There's other aspects to it. But
yeah, the numbers are really bad because it does, the number of people who are permanently affected in their life is much larger than those who die.
And that like, you could say, hey, this many millions of people didn't die, but it may also be true that 60% of those millions of people now have a permanent lung disorder, or, you know, like, so they're now more susceptible to dying from like a more mild thing because there's like permanent damage been done. Like, we don't know what all these long-term impacts. So like, for people who are thinking this isn't serious still, I think it's a little.
How old are they? I'm still wondering.
There's a whole range, like a whole gambit. Like, what do you mean, the people I know that died?
Yeah, the two people you know. Yeah.
One was 39 or 40, like early 40s, late 30s.
Okay. That's very young.
Yeah, and one was in their 70s.
That's understandable. But you know, it's still not acceptable. But you know,
and these are people who had care. Like, the issue, like, this is the problem. This is why the hospitals are a bit concerned that if there is this big wave of people that get this in certain areas, particularly in areas where maybe the medical staff are already stretched thin, or there isn't enough supply, or there aren't enough beds in the hospital, like, you're going to end up having this situation where it may not be possible to treat everybody. And then more people left untreated means more deaths, which means the percentage goes up. So now maybe this moves from, you know, killing 2% to like 6 or 8% because you know, you're dealing with this untreated category.
6 or 8%. I mean, you saying the cases are going to go up, or the deaths are going to go up that much?
If the people, so if you look at the number of people who were in severe condition but recover, there's quite a lot of them. If those people weren't treated, like if you were to say, assume all the people that were in life-threatening condition, right? If you were to take that number and say none of them recover because they didn't receive, like, the number would go up pretty high. Like, there'd be a pretty big increase. You'd see a couple percentage points at least. I'm sure
if we hadn't taken the aggressive actions we did to slow it down, to keep functioning, you could have seen a much, much, much worse outcome than we have today.
Yeah,
sure, probably double. I would say double. And
minimum.
I'm no expert, so 200,000, but that's still only just over.
You wouldn't just have double the mortality rate of the people admitted, right? You'd also a much quicker spread, so you could easily be in the millions of, you know, like, I don't think that it's trivial. This is like a non-trivial amplification of if the medical system gets overloaded, which is why if there's a second wave of people, right, even now, if it's enough to overload the medical system, it could still kill people to a much higher degree.
Look at the countries where people died at a much higher rate.
Yeah.
Well, I guess my question is now is
that could be the general too in America, right? It could be because there's so many people, weight issues, and respiratory problems and whatnot. I don't know.
More smokers, more whatever, cultural differences, eat too many beans, God knows.
That's why we have more fatalities, because we're fat. Is that what it is?
No, actually, we're doing better than Europe.
I thought we had the highest death rate worldwide.
No.
I haven't looked at the numbers.
Italy was fucking like a disaster.
Well, how many? Okay, I guess I can just find it.
Yeah, but I thought that your actual they had like a really fast, rapid spread, but I thought that your numbers, like per capita or whatever, of people infected, that you had the highest death rate.
United States. It's showing United States to. Oh, okay. Wait.
You got to compare Europe as a whole to the United States.
Oh no.
I really to do it. You can't compare unless you want to just compare New York City
United Kingdom, then.
Sweden.
Yeah.
I still show us the top at 114 now.
114 is total numbers. Now, now compare that to population.
Yeah,
Or-
but if you
I'm not talking about percent, though. I'm not talking about percent because I
Yeah.
know what you're saying. But I'm just saying in general, we have the
Yeah,
highest.
well, that's a totally unfair comparison.
Well, no, I'm just saying we have the highest. It's just a general
Yeah,
statement. We have the highest.
total number per nation. Yes.
Yeah, but
Weight and percentage are what we're being discussed. Now just throwing the total number kind of out of left field.
I thought that you just had a worse health outcome on this, like the number of deaths of people infected are at a higher rate than in other places, regardless of the numbers infected. The actual
No, we've been running about 5%. Spain was running like 8 or 9%. Italy was like at 8 or 9%. It's all over the place.
Not per capita, per.
Well, that was percent death rate of those who sought treatment, I guess.
Yeah.
You're not.
It also be because they
number of cases.
Hold on. Can I hear what Kurt's saying? Because Kurt's tried 3 times.
Go ahead, Kurt.
You're not going to get a meaningful rate from taking total cases so far or deaths so far from total population. The only rate you can get that's meaningful out of that is out of infected so far.
Yeah.
Right. And that we're running like one based on the antibody tests and I think this is like almost a month-old data. It was something about 1.4% of everybody who gets infected dies in the U.S. And that's based on a study of 15,000 random sampled population.
Do you know what the death rate is of the regular flu?
0.01%?
0.1.
Or is it 0.1%? 0.1%.
0.1. Because I heard those
so
two
this
California
is
doctors. Sorry, go
Yeah,
ahead.
well, those guys were wrong to begin with, and second off, because what they did is they did a study, pay people seeking medical care, and then tried to decide what the general population was doing. So they took a sick population and said, "Oh man, how many of you have COVID? Oh, that must mean that the whole population's had COVID." It was a bad test.
And they've had to personally walk on it in interviews where they've said that they just provided the information they had at their place, and they had to put out there that that their population was not representative.
Well, I heard the whole interview, and they specifically said that, if I recall correctly, they did 5,000 of their own patients, and those are the numbers they found. That
Right, of
they
sick
deduced
people
from
seeking
that.
medical treatment. It's a tainted pool.
You
You
think
will,
that's
of
a
course,
tainted
at a
pool?
hospital treating sick people, you're going to get a much higher incidence of people with the flu. You're going to get a much higher incidence of people who have COVID and any other malady in the people who are seeking medical care.
Yeah. It's
okay. So wouldn't that work against what we're saying? Wouldn't that be more cases of COVID?
No, that'd be like they had like 12% of their population of already sick people, which would make the general population like 1 or 2%.
Okay, anyways, I thought that was a sufficient number, 6,000 people. Anyways, the results that they got was somebody in California had the chance of dying from COVID-19 was 0.002%.
Right, and that based on that pool, you got to at least take that and multiply it times 10, if that's even fair. I mean, it sounds like that would still be under counting.
No, it's junk data. They took their patient pool, which is an urgent care, which specifically was saying if you think you could possibly have COVID, come to us and we will prescribe you prophylaxis. Like they have a huge bias. They have a hugely skewed population for the study, and they didn't put in any sort of controls. Their data is junk.
And it's embarrassingly junk for a PhD.
Oh, and also, like, of the 114K deaths, sorry, some of those probably aren't correct because, you know, there were other facts. Remember how they were, like, paying people to say free? I don't know if this all, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, there are some wrongful ones in there. So
the only thing I could say about that is I've seen another study which New York Times keeps on updating, which shows the weekly mortality rate for the past 5 years. And for the past 5 years, it's been rock steady. And this year, it's actually showing that the deaths this year are higher than even we're saying from COVID. Up to 2 weeks. Wild, pretty.
And that's what that's not our problem. That is not, but
we're not at this. 12 last.
I'd say this is what's 3. So it's a short time, but I don't know. You know,
It's not. It's not devastating.
No, I don't think it is by any means. I think it was. Right. I think it's been grossly overestimated, but we shouldn't underestimate it. So there needs to be a middle ground. Shutting down the country, I don't know.
What number would you think? What number would you accept as being?
They've already that guy that.
Considering we have 350 million, and we don't, and those are babies and stuff. So let's round it down to about how many adults? I don't know. 150 million, 200 million. I don't know. A couple million, yeah, I guess. Maybe 3 million would be like, holy.
Anything that kills over half of 1% of its base with the infectivity rate of COVID is horrifying.
Why?
And this thing at least kills double that. The last set of predictions I saw, not predictions, the last set of adjusted models I saw have the firm number somewhere between 4.5% and 1.5%, which is between 45 to 15 times more lethal than a flu season and much easier to spread.
I understand that, but like for me, I think the casualties have got to hit the millions before I really start to go in panic mode myself. I would think just because.
Well, that would have been millions if it stands at 1.4%. Yeah, well, you also have to take a guess. When this first comes out, you got to take a guess. How many hospitals are going to get overrun? Okay, well, let's say that we're going to have 10% overrun. You got to make guesses and then make your decision based upon those guesses because you don't get the full picture to make the choice.
Okay.
Sorry, I don't know.
So then we'll go the other way. If it was the right decision to shut down, how long? Okay, we'll say this is the right decision. We're finally opening up 50% capacity, et cetera. The government is going to have to do something. They shut it all down. We're going to have to pull out of our own pockets and pay people. There are people hurting right now still. And in order to get where it's decent, there's going to have to be some type of income. You know, I know there's unemployment right now, but what if the people still can't get on the unemployment? I mean, like, there's still other things that are happening that need help. So I don't know. It's gonna have to pay for it. That's all I got to say. Is it sucks. Yeah. It's coming out of our own pockets, but we shut it down. We hit the we hit the e-stop on the assembly line, and it's costing money. And we're just gonna have to make some debt for now to get out of it. It is a natural disaster in a way. So
yep.
We got to pay for it.
You know
That's
how
what I
many
say.
moms and pops are gonna go down?
A lot.
Well,
A lot.
Yeah, no, I know. There's a lot. There's, I think, one of our local barber shops here in Romulus, Dave's Barber, is going to go down, and he's been in business since before I was a kid.
Of course, that's economic opportunity for others.
Yeah.
Yep.
Wow.
The big fish.
No, me.
So you're the big fish.
Nope. But I have a little money squirreled away. I managed to keep my job through the whole thing so far, and so I'm smelling a lot better than some of these other people. And they lose their mom and pop shop, and I say, hey, you know what? That mom and pop shop was making money hand over fist.
It sucks, but you can capitalize in a quote unquote, what is it? Capitalize in a dire situation.
Yeah.
Let me tell you how the big dudes call it. When there's blood on the streets, you buy.
No,
It's called distressed assets. That's what it's called. Buying distressed assets.
There's nothing wrong with it. It's just getting ahead. That's all. It might be cynical, but
their loss is my gain.
Each to their own. I mean, hey, you got a family to take care of yourself, so I don't fault you for it. But if in turn you do turn some of that around and give some stuff away, fair is fair. You've done sort of the right thing.
I'll tell you, I was lucky though. A couple of years ago, I was considering blowing $2 million on opening a business, and it's like I wasn't able to get the funding at that point, so it's just like it became pie in the sky. But if I had pulled it off with friends and stuff, I would have been in deep shit right now, because mine would have been a non-essential business, and I'd still have that note hanging over my head that whole time.
Yeah,
I'm telling you, a lot of people are gonna suffer in this.
Yeah.
A lot of small businesses are gonna go under.
Oh yeah, they've estimated over 49% to 60-something%. So that's a big gray area between pretty much 50% and 60-something. Yeah, I mean that's because they just. But see, it does stem back to sort of the same thing that they tell us, like, hey, you should have 6 months worth of bills saved up. You should have 1 year's worth of bills saved up, Mister. Delta Airlines, or Dave's Barbershop. Everyone wants to bitch and complain that I'm losing my business, but technically, shouldn't they have bought that Ferrari? Shouldn't they have saved some money for a rainy day?
I don't know. Maybe
they pay these CEOs. No, I mean they pay these CEOs a lot of money, and they do bonuses and do all these other things, and it's like maybe you should have saved 1 year's worth of bills. If it costs you $1 million to run your company per year, you should have saved $1 million or $2 million in real money, real cash, ready to go. So
yeah, you have a point. You have a point there, but
I mean that's my point. That's my point. Plain and we're supposed to do these things, and if we don't, we fail. Plain and simple.
Yeah. Other than hard savings, I got 6 months of cash ready.
Yeah, I'm saying cash, not gold and silver and diamonds, because you haven't sold that. Real cash, ready to go.
I mean cash in that, like not investments.
No, yeah, I know. I'm saying, but yeah, for those guys, they should have cash ready to go. 1 million they should be able to, whatever.
Where do you keep it, Moyak? Is it at home?
Yes, I keep it under my pillow.
Do you sleep on the right side or the left side?
Ready. It's bank ready money.
Is it in a bag or safe, like with a combination?
It's in a bank.
Oh.
But technically, the bank is only going to cover $250,000 insurance-wise. I guess you need a lot of banks.
I thought it was $100K.
250, I think.
250 is FDI insured, but if you got to get 10 banks, you got to get 10 banks. I'm sure there's 10 banks out there.
The banks never lose. It's fixed that way.
Well, yeah, but no, they. I mean, no, they do.
That's good too.
No, one went under. What's the one that went under? The couple that went under in 10 or 8 or whatever.
The big banks don't lose. The big banks buy the small banks.
You mean
the
like
big
Chase
guys, the
or
ones that got bailed out in the what was it in the 90s?
4 big ones in 2008.
In 2008 and 2009, pushing 10, I'm still undecided. I think they should have let them fail. I really think they should have let them fail. They were gambling with derivatives. I mean, I can say
They
that.
were playing poker. Yeah, you're right.
I think they should have just let them go. Don't save GM. Even GM, when it was having issues, same fucking shit. You're not going to save the mom and pop stores. You're not going to save Joe's Pizza, but you're going to save GM because of no.
But in the end, GM is doing well now, right? So that actually benefited.
Fairly well. Yeah, they've bounced back. They paid the money back. And so are the banks. They paid the money back. The government, when I saw those Congress things, they were saying, where did the money go? How did it go? Well, Congress, duh. They just whatever. But
when did the banks pay the money back?
Within a few months. Yeah, within a few months. They paid it back because they just did more of the crap that they do. They bought more stocks or did more whatever and then got the revenue. I think they should just let them go bankrupt, to be honest. I mean, they're not going to bail me out when I don't make my car payment.
Yeah.
When you go tits up, you don't put 30,000 people out of work.
Well, that's true. And I get what you're saying. That's a responsibility of that company to do the right thing. And when they're misguided and they're not, they forget that humble pie, it becomes a problem and they have lives in their hands.
They're bought and sold, bro. They're bought and sold. It's just that simple. The big companies...
the downside of that is you wipe out entire regions. When you if you take out a car manufacturer, you destroy multiple counties in a state.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, it is.
You're absolutely.
It is the common good. To take care of them, as opposed to the individuals who are sort of piecemealed through the country.
I mean, that's one of the.
Don't forget the small businesses that are supported by them.
If you're gonna have a situation where you have an economy that is unstable for various reasons, whether it's they're in a region where it's prone to natural disasters and hurricanes, or whether job displacement, or a giant epidemic, right? There's a lot of shit that can knock things out of the economy. That's why there should be a safety. That's why you need something for people to bounce into. If you have a universal income, whatever, you have that. Then companies that aren't successful are allowed to fail, right?
Yeah.
The free market's allowed to function without things being artificially preserved that are technically fake.
But people do dumb things.
Exactly, bro. Exactly.
People do dumb things though. In a case where a company goes out of business, then they stay there. It's they need to get the old pioneer type mentality, and when all goes to hell and there's no chance of that area recovering, they gotta move. You can't just stay there and hope the area improves.
Yeah, but why the banks?
What I'm saying is, though, right? If there was a proper safety net for people for general displacement, right? When shit happens, so that people aren't economically crippled just because there isn't work for what, right? When you take that out of the, if companies fail at that point, then you should let them, because you're not going to decimate entire regions like you're talking about.
Right. I watched my move. He moved out to Raleigh to get a job, and of course the job dried up as soon as he got there because of COVID. But I watched the expenses that he incurred doing that. It's he is just a young man with nothing much going on. He blew about $8,000 on the move. He had it to spend, but it's not something you do willy-nilly. Especially if you drag your feet too long and drain all your funds.
Yeah.
Once again, don't get me wrong, guys. I have a heart. I do. I see the dog on the side of the street. I want to give him a hot dog. I get it. But at the end of the day, it still results down to they give you the bullshit. They tell you the bullshit. You must have this in the bank. You must pay your bills. You can't be a bad guy. And, you know, then you go belly up and you don't have a savings to take care of that. Well, you know, the morals and ethics need to play a role. Now, do we really know the morals and ethics of Amazon and all these other? We can try to hope that Bezos is a good guy, but at the end of the day, I mean, is he really just lining his own pockets and lining his own infrastructure, and he's really not caring too much? I don't know. They got lots of money to throw around, and are they throwing it around?
They don't treat their workers very well. I know that that's an ongoing issue in many places.
Right. I would think you'd pay them suckers $20 an hour. You know, pay them the highest wage that you possibly can. With
oh man, the pickers. Not only that, like, they get encouraged to not have bathroom breaks, and like they're like,
yep, I've heard. Right. We've heard these stories and ridiculous quotas, and honestly, they would hire more people to help with those quotas if they would pay better and have better things. So I get it.
They're not going to do that. They're going to replace those people with like automated packaging systems. 100%. They're already training.
Yeah, and that's their absolute right to do that. So that's why I'm saying, do I really care if Amazon goes belly up? It's probably not going to affect me too much. I bought very little from them. I probably bought maybe a few things from them, but not. I do understand that people have a business on Amazon where they make, I don't know, paperweights or something out of glass, and then they sell them on Amazon. It's something he personally makes, or vice versa, or something, kind of like Etsy or whatever. But I mean, each to their own. But it still comes down to, you know, ethics and morals in the company. And, you know, some of these companies just get so big and so whatever, they lose their sight of what they should be. They get corrupt. And I think they should just go belly.
Not so much that, right? The inherent problem is you have a system that's current metrics are slightly broken. Like, you tend to move towards the target you're shooting for, right? You know what I mean? The thing that you're asking the question on is the direction that a company tends to move. And all the companies, as soon as you have shareholders, you have a legal obligation to do things that profit the shareholders. Like, you can't purposely do something that you may think will negatively impact your stock or whatever, right? If it's cutting shareholder profit.
Right, I'm gonna just double the pay of my employees.
Yeah,
there you go.
Yeah, so if you double the pay of all your employees, that's not good. That's bad for the shareholders, right?
I understand what you're saying.
So like there's a natural incentive, and the reason that companies go towards that is their success is sort of like measured on contribution to GDP and all this sort of stuff, right? Like how, like, so like there's just a general direction that things tend to move in, and like the more influence a company has, the more they tend to use it to hit those targets, to increase those targets. If we had different targets that people had to sort of equalize to have good standing as a company, might see a better situation.
The worst jobs that I've ever worked at in my life have been mom and pop shops. So I've worked at, and including my kids in that. And one of them was it was a company that had 140 employees, so they were getting a little bit big, but still, it was still owned by one person. And that was 1 hour heating and air conditioning. And my God, what a shit company that was. Just worked their people to death, huge turnover. And then, I worked in the five and dime, and the first guy I worked for was okay, but he didn't give benefits or anything. He paid, the going rate. Didn't give me any great money.
Yeah.
I could have gotten just as good going to Walmart. And so I don't find mom and pops to be the answer either.
But here's the thing, though. Again, like, that's why I think the underlying economic problem, like, there needs to be a proper distribution of some of the extra revenue that companies like Amazon are making on digital products. And that's why I think you need like a VAT tax on Amazon so they don't dodge all the taxes. And then you distribute that out. Like, there's quite a lot of the Democrats seem to now be on board with the idea of a UBI. Like, it's gotten quite a bit more popular. But I guess among Republicans too in the last while, probably because of the crisis. But
now you're talking
generally
communism,
speaking-
bro. You should stay away from talk like that.
No.
Well, it is inevitable that UBI will become a thing. That is
It's
not
it's
something
not
that is. It's a when does it happen is the only question, and how big.
Then that's gonna be the end of the states when that happens.
But irrelevant.
Not necessarily because we still have look, you can have social programs. I've said this before, and I'm just going to make this up front. I think there are some social programs that work and that can work in a capitalist type system. I think we can benefit from both. You know, Medicaid, Medicare is an example that works fairly well if it's properly done. Old people can get taken, for their medical insurance because they don't work anymore. People that can't afford insurance can be put on it because technically they don't make enough to afford a plan or something. These programs do work if they're properly taken care of. The veterans program for the military could work properly if it's properly implicated right. There are some drawbacks. There's always some caveats, right? But with that being said, like even if there's a universal basic income where like they give away $1,000 a month to every family or something like that, yes, the drawbacks could be prices could go up a little bit. Milk could cost $20, whatever have you.
Oh, you would not see anything that drastic.
You're talking
I don't think
insanity, bro. You're talking
it's not,
end of the world.
yeah, but we
as you
still
know it,
have.
man.
But we still
Bumper,
have.
I agree. I agree.
We
I
still
agree
have
with
our
what you
right.
said.
Still have our rights, SE. I still have cash in the bank. I still have greenbacks that I can go buy things. I still have
Yeah,
bullets.
Bumper, let me just say something, bro. I agree with you 100%, but your rights are about to be taken away in a few months. I wouldn't doubt it, bro. Like the new world order is coming, and they're gonna strip you of all your rights, of everything you know and love, and everyone is. You're going to stop.
And when that does do,
It's going to happen. I know it's going to happen.
So within the year.
Yes.
I'd say so. Yeah, 2020 is the year, bro. Look
Okay.
around you, bro. You're literally
Right.
locked in your house.
So if we
you
get
don't.
to New Year's Eve and this hasn't happened, what will you say to it?
All right, listen. Let's make a bet.
Yes,
let's
see. Out $20. I'll give you $20 if it doesn't happen. You give me $20 if it does happen. Okay.
It's a deal.
Oh,
well, what's your metric for all your rights being stripped away? Does that mean that
they're gonna push gun control? They're gonna start with the guns. They're gonna take all your guns away, and then people are gonna beg for them to come back, and they're gonna take all your rights, and they're gonna start with the gun control. Then they're gonna sign the peace treaty with Israel, and then it's gonna all go from downhill from there.
Wait, why would they need to sign a peace treaty with Israel?
Right.
Oh well, it's the start of the new world order, Kosho.
But
they
you're
already
at war with Israel.
give Israel like $1 billion a year.
I'm not saying what she's saying is not possible, because what she's saying is totally possible. She makes some points. We're locked in our houses, blah blah blah. They're blaming it on COVID, blah blah blah. Bring the mask over my eyes. I get what you're saying, but at the end of the day, until all of these ducks in a row happen and are shot dead, there isn't going to be anything. Like I said, for now, I still can go get cash. For now, I still have my guns, and I can lace them on my back and go walk down the street like they did in Michigan here up on Capitol Hill. They had guns on Capitol Hill. So it's not as bad as you think, okay? So don't freak out entirely until some of these ducks are shot dead.
Oh, it's happening.
Taking Americans' guns away.
They're gonna start implanting you. They're gonna implant you with an RFDI chip. They're gonna take away cash currency, all digital currency. They're gonna push for a one world currency
this year. Within 12
I'd say so, yeah. I think it's happening. They're already pushing for digital currency, bro.
Oh.
And 5G. Look around. I'm not excited about this. I just
I'll be the against digital currency though. What?
Well,
I mean,
okay, so we lose the digital currency gem, then it allows me to not nickel and dime and wheel and deal on the side. So it is a cause for concern. I get what she's saying. Like I said, I get what she's saying, but not all at once. Like if they take away currency this year and next year they work on guns, yeah, then I would start being on board with you in that ship. I would jump in your ship and go, yeah, she's right. But this takes time. I've said it before.
It's just digital currency is currently used for people to wheel and deal on the side.
Yeah, but you won't be able to because it'll be all tracked at that point. It'll all be tracked in tax. So from now on, right now I
They're
can
already
sell.
setting up concentration camps.
They've been doing that for years.
And
Elstone's been saying.
Walmart. If your local Walmart gets shut down, you know why.
Tunnels. It's got tunnels underneath it.
She said it 4 months, so we'll give you till 2021 for this to happen. So $20, I could take that bet.
I made that bet with Jim Panda. I don't know about you. I'll make a $5 bet with you.
$5 bet.
She's not
Why?
made of money. Come on.
Yeah, like literally, I'm a broke college student. I can't do much here.
Oh shit! I was gonna go for 50,000 on this.
Well, I hope you're definitely going in the right direction with your college education and not like something that's going to be dead when you get out. So
Yeah, I'm studying astrophysics.
No, you're.
I'm just fucking kidding. I'm studying education.
I don't care. I'm taking you at face value, but I hope you're studying something that's of value and not basket weaving that's going to be dead when you get out. See, that's the problem with college too, is people go into the wrong things. I mean, some of those studies and things are a waste of time.
I have academic scholarships. I'm good, bro. Don't worry about me.
Okay.
But all right, guys, listen. They're gonna start taking away. They're gonna start. I'm sorry. I'm laughing at the chat. They're gonna take away your right, and you're gonna be stripped from your families, everything you know and love, and then they're gonna put you in a concentration camp in Walmart, and you're gonna wonder what, and you're gonna think it back, and you're like, "Wow, Soda was right."
Soda's going to be in the same concentration camp somewhere else. So I'm going to be like, she was right, but she's stuck there too.
Oh no, I'm going off grid. I'm going off grid. I already have plans. I've already been making like survival plans. Like as soon, I've already learned how. I'm like learning how to live in the wilderness.
Yeah, Soda, there is no hiding anymore. It's
No,
too
I'm going off
advanced.
grid.
It's too advanced. They could send drones over and scan the United States at a low, high altitude and find you. So don't give me that shit. They'll
I'm not
find
taking the microchip, bro. Are you gonna take the microchip?
I
So
don't
you have
know.
to remember.
Mark of the beast. I don't know.
You have
If
to
you take
remember.
that shit, you're dead.
You have to remember, we've been hearing these stories about FEMA camps and things like since, well, before you were born, really.
I
Literally.
know.
So, you know,
Why
that's
does
why we
everybody
tend
I
to be
talk to
quite.
say that?
Because it's true.
Everybody I
It's a
talk to about it is like, I've already known about this since before you were born. Like, bro, I just found out about this like 2 months ago. Calm down.
Okay, well, maybe she's having her
Since
panic
before you were
attack.
born, it's gonna happen tomorrow.
Right.
Oh, it's happening. 2020 is the year. I'm sure.
There's- I can remember asking in a forum way back when, it would have been, I don't know, like mid 90s or something like that. Asking in a forum because I'd heard this story somewhere on the internet about some group in America buying all these coffins and all these gurneys to put bodies on and this sort of thing. And it's a very common meme that was hanging around then. You know, it's sort and I still hear it now and again today. This sort of thing that some whoever it is, FEMA or whatever it is, have ordered 100,000 plastic coffins.
Yeah, those things are biodegradable.
There you go. You see?
Yeah, though, here's the thing, right? Like, I've definitely, I've known people back in the day that were equally as convinced as you that 2012 was the year.
Right.
2000, Y2K. Don't forget about Y2K.
And the
Yeah.
year 2000. The year
I mean, they even
2000
even got a little pamphlet about Y2K.
Yeah. So, like, it's not the first time I've heard people convinced, right? The thing that I would say to just, hey, it's pretty easy to get wound into stuff like that, especially when there's crazy shit going on in the world, like right. But when New Year's strikes next year and the world is maybe a little bit more normal, there's probably still going to be.
I'm $20 richer. Yeah.
No, you're not going to be $20 richer. I'm going to be $20 richer, Jim Pan, and you're going to be sitting and starving to death in the FEMA camps. $20 rich.
How am I going to?
Wait.
How am I going to pay you if I'm starving to death in a FEMA?
I think she's
We'll figure it out. You'll be in debt.
Aren't these the same FEMA camps that they were going to put everybody in during Katrina? The same FEMA camps they were going to put everyone in during the housing crisis?
Yeah.
Yep.
The same FEMA camps are gonna put you in a couple of months, bro. Just wait, it's coming.
She's
You
trolling.
know
I
what they've
hear it
been
in her.
saying this since the day after Jesus died? They've been saying that the end times are nigh.
I hear sarcasm in her voice. Is it just me, or do I hear a touch of?
No, listen.
There was
you guys
Operation Jade
understand.
Helm. Do you remember that? That was another one, wasn't it?
Remember when Obama ordered 8,000 guillotines? Remember that?
Who did?
8,000 guillotines, you say?
Yeah, Obama ordered 8,000 guillotines. Look it up.
You know that 8,000 bullets would be far more effective and cheaper, right?
No, come
They're
on.
gonna cut your
Those
head off.
guillotines are more effective than bullets. Come on.
Yeah, exactly.
You
Coach knows
can
what's
kill a
funny.
couple hundred people with a guillotine before having to sharpen it.
Hey, guys, maybe Coach and I will be in the same FEMA camp since we're so close to since we live so close to each other.
So
It's a fun FEMA camp.
what's the advantage of killing all your sheep that make your stuff and make you rich?
It's power, bro. Do you agree that Bumper? Let me ask you a question. Would you agree
If
that
everybody's
knowledge is
dead,
power?
you have no power.
Right.
Yeah, everyone's dead. You have no power.
They don't give
Knowledge
a
is
fuck if you're dead or not. You're already just a number.
But then you have no power.
You're a number to them in the system. They don't give
The
a
only
fuck
way you
about
can have power is if you have serfs to be having lord power over. Otherwise, you're just out somewhere in the field somewhere digging a hole to try and make your next bath.
No, bro, listen. You guys just wait, okay? They're going to put you on a train, just like they did with the Jews, and they're going to send you off to a FEMA camp, and you are going to suffer. All right? They're already taking away your rights. Like, you guys have to...
sounding good as well. You made that, I was thinking a train ride, and we're going to a fun camp thing. And then you ruined it by saying I was going to suffer there. Why do I have to? It sounds lovely. Is it in the countryside?
No, it's in your local Walmart. That's where they're taking you to your local Walmart. They're shutting them down.
How is that camp? That's not a camp in my
they're building
Walmart.
it to be one. Or also they're using outlet malls too. You know how outlet malls look like they have like guard towers in them? That's what they've got.
Right. Well, we don't have those here, so we're all right. Also, they already took away my gun.
Yeah, they already took his guns away. Hey, Soda, are you getting this from TrueStream or something? Is TrueStream kind of turned your mind into Alex Jones, or who's the one behind?
No, I got it from a Dropbox that someone sent me.
Yeah, but what do you mean? What movie or video or what did, because something influenced you to be all panicky?
I'm not panicking, bro. I'm chilling because I'm gonna go off grid. I already told you I'm already studying how to survive.
That's what I'm telling you.
She's not panicking. That's the point of this. That's the
I'm not
whole
gonna
point of
suffer.
the conspiracy theory, isn't it?
Oh,
if you
right.
know about it,
Sure,
you're
right?
not one of the people panicking.
Right.
You're ahead of the game. 'cause you know
Right.
Do you know how to make soap?
Do I know?
Moira, aside from that, I'm curious. So
Just Googling it right now. Let me Google.
I know. I need to.
Are we back
All
on Fight Club?
So let me ask you a question. If we get to say 2021 or 2022 or 2020, and this shit that you think is going to happen hasn't happened, and then all the truth people are sort of just on to the next thing, and they're equally convinced, oh, this is they've changed the plan, now it's going to be this other thing, right? At what point do you go, oh, maybe some of these people don't know what they're talking about? Maybe there's a bit of confusion going on. Like when would you reject how long would you have to be wrong for?
Well,
you are wrong. I'm saying hypothetically, if you
no,
were
the
wrong.
thing is that I know I'm not wrong because things are already happening all around us. First, we have this COVID shit going on. Like we all know, even the blue pill people are starting to wake up right now, right? Like people are starting to realize that something is a little off here. Like, bro, they're literally treating us like we're fucking peasants. In the stores, like if you go in public, you have to wear a mask. Like literally, I went to the store the other day without a mask, and they literally wouldn't let me in. They're like, you need to put a mask on. Like that shit's fucking insane. Like that's like a right they're taking away from you. Like if you don't realize that something, if you don't realize that something's going on, then you're mental. You need help.
Hold on.
But they're not doing that here. Why aren't they doing that here if that's required as part of the thing that's going on?
Jim, you live in a third world country, bro. I can't talk for I can't talk for you.
I live in one of the richest nations on earth. We're like number 7 or 8 or something. So
yeah, okay.
You don't have to wear a mask here in shop. And I live in a place where I live in a place where a lot of people wear masks anyway before COVID. Go ahead.
Jim, do you have a definitive proof that you live in the richest country in the world?
No, I don't have definitive proof of anything.
So I don't believe you.
Okay.
He didn't say the richest in the world. He said like 7.
No, but she turned it around like a flat Earth argument.
We're in the G8, aren't we? I think we're still in it.
It's okay to live in a third world country, but also you guys like.
I'm curious. You didn't exactly answer the question I asked. You said that you're really certain. I understand that.
She
if I
won't
were to say,
believe it by Christmas, dude. It'll all be done with. Trust me.
I understand. I think,
and you'll be $20 richer.
She's going to go to college. She's going to get laid, and all this will be forgotten about.
Yeah, okay. Listen, yeah, you guys are just so, I feel like everyone in this room, except, maybe a couple people are just so blue-pilled, like, you all just, like, you love the world too much, like, you people are just, I just feel bad for some of you guys, because you don't understand what's going on around you.
There ain't nothing wrong with
I'm not saying that you, look,
The wisdom of youth.
Is that Lemon here?
Oh, geez, Jim, that was perfect.
I'm
not even
in my 53 years, I've seen lots and lots of predictions like this by better people than you.
Yeah.
Sir, are you questioning my intelligence right now?
Listen to the sarcasm. You guys don't hear the sarcasm. She's just trolling.
I'm not being sarcastic, bro. Lemon, can you please let the people know that I'm not trolling? Why do you guys say that I'm trolling whenever I say something slightly intelligent?
But you must understand. Hold on. Hang on. Being a troll doesn't mean you aren't. It doesn't mean you're not a flat earther. You can be a flat earther, genuinely believe in flat Earth, and be a troll.
Yeah, the word is po that you're looking for. Nobody's accusing you of being a po.
You're just upset. I understand you gentlemen are upset because your lives are about to be at risk. Okay, we understand everyone's about to be taken away from their homes, rights stripped of them. We're all worried. Okay, I get it. Everyone's a little upset, but you don't need to take it out on me.
We're okay because we've got you, Soda, haven't we, to keep us up to date and informed on this stuff.
And I'm not in the least bit worried, and I got my horde of guns.
Yeah,
and I don't have to wear a mask.
No, Soda,
I don't have to wear a mask.
Me and you are gonna ride over to Moak's house and fucking take his guns and his money under.
No, that would be a very. The government's going to.
What's the word?
That would be a very bad idea for you.
Scott never wears a mask because he just gets everything delivered. He never goes out. So
or Scott's house afterward.
Delivered too, right?
What's the words of Charles whatever, from my cold dead hands or whatever, Charlton Heston. So yeah.
Get ready, guys.
So Soda, I'm just curious. What would the world look like next year? Right? Like say after Christmas, if you're wrong.
If I'm
wrong?
You're
certain of what you think is going to happen, right? Like I understand that you have a high degree of confidence in what you believe is going to happen. If you were to falsify, if you were going if this doesn't happen, or if this criteria isn't met, I will have been wrong about what I think is going. Like, where is that line?
Okay, so if I'm wrong, then definitely 100% it's going to be if I'm wrong, it's going to happen within a year or two, of what I said, right? It's going to happen. The RFDI chip is nothing new. Okay, we all know we're going to be microchipped in here, and we also all know that they're going to take away our rights. This is nothing new. So if I'm wrong, then maybe it's going to be in a couple years off.
She's right. Okay. Because one of the things that I always am a little suspect of with any of these sorts of predictions, right, is you always have this sort of shifting goalpost of the thing that's almost here and you should definitely be afraid of. And usually people end up labeling whatever said thing is, it's the mark of the beast, or and it's been different things over the years, right? There were people who thought rock and roll was the devil music, right? Like there's always like a focus, and we
All
know,
true.
right?
Oh, David, you're missing one. Remember, you have to remember that for a while people thought a social security number was the mark of the beast because it was a number being.
There's a lot of people who thought social security numbers were mark of the beast. And they always say, as soon as this thing happens, as soon as this gets popped, everything is gonna. So when you say something like, well, the RFID chip is coming, you're saying that as if that happens, that it's going to be a bad thing. I know the way that you are being told about these things, it would be a bad thing, right? Like we can always imagine bad things like technology and whatnot, but could just well be that we're going to have certain things that are like a biological technology. We seem to be moving in that direction, right? We'll probably do it at some point. And
you're not worried about this?
No.
I want to hear what Lemon has to say about this.
Well, the way prophecy appears to work is based off of God's power. When you say don't do God's will, he removes his power and you are under another power. That power is not as powerful as God, so eventually it will come to pass because it's like entropy, it's like diminishing returns. There's less and less power for the evil to do what it's going to do, but the only option it has is evil, so eventually these prophecies will come to pass. It's just, now or later. It's just sooner or later in that regard, but God does have knowledge of the future, and he did tell us that this is going to happen. So one way or another, it's going to happen, whether it's this year or the next.
But Lemon, let me ask you this, right? Like, to your point, you're talking about prophecy, which is pretty fuzzy in general. Prophecies are fuzzy things.
Prophecy's not that fuzzy. Basically, it's like dominoes. One thing falls, then another thing falls, and it's like getting into a corner where the event is eventually going to occur.
And
especially if you're outside
there's
power.
Plenty of religions, like Christian religion, that have made prophecies or predictions based on scripture in modern that have been incorrect. And they've backpedaled and said, yeah, I guess we misinterpreted it.
Only
Right?
the cult. Only the cult.
Exactly. Thank you, Lemon. Amen to Lemon.
Okay. But aren't you right now making a prediction about what's going to happen and saying that it's going to be prophecy?
It's not just us, it's the Bible.
The Bible gives the specificity. That's something else. We all see how evil Bill Gates is, saying that he's going to use vaccines to sterilize people and reduce the human population. We all see him with his gender inverted couple, with him probably being the female and his wife being the male with that jaw of hers or whatever. We see, all of this, inversion of God's order, all of this, crazy evil all around. It's going down one way or another. The tranny apocalypse in Hollywood has been, unearthed. Hollywood's hatred of God's order, the desire to invert everything. This is dominoes falling as people get more and more debauched and more unable to run their lives properly.
You're always good at the Gish Gallop, but just dial it back for a second. As I just want to. So you're talking mark of the beast. What do you think that is? Do you know?
There's a couple possibilities. It could be the vaccine with the hydrogel that fuses to your tissue and changes your DNA to make you, easier for a demon to inhabit or whatever.
So
could be something like that.
Let me ask you a question. Let's say it was made law of the land that you needed some sort of a chip for whatever reason, or vaccine, or whatever. Right? Let's say that that's the case. You believe it's the mark of the beast.
It could be. There's several contenders for it. Who knows?
Right. Now, doesn't the Bible also say sort of like, obey Caesar's law, like go with the law of the land while you're on?
There's two authorities that God allows to operate. His own authority, of course, and there's the other authority when you don't want to bow to God's authority, which is the authority authority under judgment.
Right,
That
so
would be Caesar.
when
So if you belong to Caesar, render up to what is Caesar's. But if you belong to God, render up to God what is God's.
Right.
So it really depends on what authority you want to put yourself under. The authority of God or the authority under judgment.
So how certain do you need to be that something is the mark of the beast? If it was a legal mandatory thing, right? How
I
certain
would
do you
go
need
with
to be
prophecy. There are certain events that happen in prophecy. The man of sin coming onto the stage. People point to like some treaty or some the violation of the temple. Some different effects that are like dominoes that tell you that this, what's occurring that are in place.
What about the mark, though? Isn't it specifically supposed to be put in the forehead or the hand and be visual unto man, as that you are desecrated for death?
Well, I would go with it being something physical, because if it was symbolic, it wouldn't be that specific as far as I can tell, because the forehead or the hand is like a very specific choice. But who knows? I could be wrong in the interpretation of the prophecy in scripture. I think the thing that sets this whole shindig off is supposed to be like the rapture. A bunch of people being caught up in the clouds, with the harpazo, the rapture.
Oh, I think
so that's supposed to happen, when all this stuff goes down.
I think your head's up in the clouds a little bit, Lemon, because like the thing is you're doing the same sort of hypothesizing and trying to decode things that any of these other people do. Just some of them are a little bit more public about their failings, and people decide to listen to them.
So who has the right interpretation, though? That's the thing. Who has the right interpretation?
You know my stance, Lemon. I think the whole thing is nonsense in that regard, right? Like I don't think that any efficacy in the Bible and its prophecies, but that regardless of that, right, there's still an objective measurement that you can look at to say, hey, if somebody, myself or another, is making a prediction about that is supposed to be a future event, and I have a belief that's contingent on that being true, then the only honest thing to do is, if that does not come to pass, instead of continually moving the goalpost, right?
No one's moving the goalpost right now, bro. We all know what's going to happen.
I'm not saying you're moving it right now.
Whether it's going down, whether it's now or later, one way or another, it's going down.
One way or another, you're all going to get microchipped, and everyone's going to, we're going to get our rights taken away. We're going to be prisoners to the government.
Maybe it's a cool
pretty much.
I don't know why you're saying having a microchip would definitely be bad. Maybe it would be a good thing. Depends on.
You're delusional if you think a microchip is going to be any good. Okay, so basically what it's going to be is they're going to put you in they're going to microchip you, and that's all. If you don't get the microchip, then you're not allowed to use currency. You can't go buy your groceries. You can't function in daily life unless you take this microchip. Don't you think it's a little strange?
It might be real convenient. No way to mug someone.
Well, it'll be in two convenient places. It'll be on your hand if you want to swipe it in front of a door, or it'll be on, your forehead if you want it to access your soul, your chakra, your third eye, access directly. So it really just depends on how.
Until that day, I didn't mean to interrupt, but until that day comes, that's when it's all downhill. At that point,
it's already coming. They're already microchipping people in Sweden.
Tribulation anyway, honey. You're gonna deal with tribulation anyway. So
they're microchipping.
Unless you get caught up in the rapture, you might not want to be around when they start torturing Christians.
The rapture happens after tribulation. Look at it in Revelation.
Pre-tribulation. It's pre-tribulation if you go by the order of the feast.
In Revelations, it says after. Bores will be poured and the angels. It's after tribulation. You're not going to get caught up. Right? God is not going to make it that easy for you.
People are going to see this God come and taking these people up in the clouds, and then we'll be given, hopefully one more chance to repent before this whole world is washed away, or rather burned, and just made anew. So it looks like it's going to be a pre-trib rapture, as far as I can tell.
It says it right there in Revelations. Do I have to pull out the King James Bible that you believe in? And it says it right there.
My
God. By the order of the the stuff goes.
Sorry, Lemon. I'm going to say one thing about religion, and then I'm going to stop talking about religion because I don't like talking about it in here. But let me just say, everyone, hide your Bibles. Start hiding them, because they're going to start taking them away, and they're going to start killing Christians. So get ready.
Okay.
It's all good. I mean, if innocent children can be tortured for hours for their adrenochrome blood, what's a little bit of torture, for me or for me?
How much
a little bit of
adrenochrome
torture
does
for a
God
day
need?
or
'Cause he
two, and I'll be
tortures
with my
people.
Father in the clouds. It is what it is.
I feel badly that you have such a bleak outlook as to what's actually happening in the world, because I think there's definitely nonsense happening in the world. There's certainly people who are like out for their own self-interest, willing to manipulate. There's there's shitty people, there's bad people. The world is not a great place, but I don't think it's as nearly like this crazy fight between this clear good and evil as you think. I think there's a lot of
How many people waste their whole life away worrying about this shit?
That's what I mean. Like, if
I'm not worried.
If this doesn't happen this next year or the year after, then I hope at some point that maybe you take a moment and reanalyze the amount of time that you were spending worrying or
no one's worried.
being upset. All right, or just believing something is coming that isn't. Maybe being disappointed that it hasn't come. If it's something
It is coming.
If you're not worried,
Dude, wait, let me stop you.
then why are you going to go off grid? If you're not
Let me
worried, then
stop
why are you?
you. Let me stop you right there, okay? You said that if it doesn't happen, but what is happening in your world right now, bro? That is the whole point. Things are going on right now that are starting to wake people up. More people are getting awakened right now. This is the second great awakening, bro. Okay, everyone's getting
They
awakened
did
up
the
right
same
now.
shit back in 1919 with the flu, and it came back to normal afterwards. And people said at that time that it was the end times. And this has happened for 100 generations, that there's been somebody saying somewhere that this is going to happen. So people waste their entire life away worrying about, and I know you say you're not worrying, but talking about this and preparing for it, and it doesn't happen.
Yeah, like all I'm gonna say is that if that continues to happen, I hope that you take a moment to analyze and take stock of some of these ideas and see if they're actually really of benefit to you having an enjoyable life.
Well, yeah, but if you're schizophrenic, you're just not going to have a good life because you're constantly worried about everything. They're out to get you. They're here today. They're here tomorrow. Oh my god! Oh my god! My point is to roll with the punches.
Treatment, but
roll with the punches. You can't stop what's going to happen to you. You can only control what's in your life.
Look, I know.
You can control a couple things in your life. You can't control everything around you.
So here's the thing, right?
I agree.
I have met plenty of people like Soda before, some of which are like, they've got, some of which also just have a set of beliefs because of the upbringing, because of the circumstance. And later on, they realize that there was some nonsense going on. They end up being pretty intelligent people once they get rid of the jumble. I've seen like XJWs that are confused as fuck about the world. And they clear that nonsense out, and they're doing a lot better, right?
Yeah.
Different.
Yeah.
I don't think.
Well, the chip is coming.
Like a lot. So all I'll point out is a lot of these things that you think are really unique to now, they come in fate. Like they may be unique to your experience. They're not unique to even everybody currently alive's experience, right? Like there are people who have seen this same sort of shit different day, same reactions, more than one, right? And when you understand some of the shit that's actually going on, you get out there instead of listening to weird underground stuff. Actually talk to the people that are out there. Like talk to some of the scientists that are. I've had the opportunity to do that. Not everybody does, but you talk to some of the actual people. You figure out a little bit what's going on under the hood. That people are just regular people. Some people are bad. Some people are not. Things can make a lot more sense. Than proposed,
What's Lemon's
username
in here?
That whether you know it or not, the sort of beliefs that sometimes people hold on to in any belief structure that has sort of this inevitable apocalyptic event, right? Of any sort. There's one sad thing about those beliefs is it forces people into a kind of cognitive where they want to care about people, they want to save people, but they also want to distance themselves in certain ways. They want to like isolate in certain ways because they don't know who's sort of going to be lost. This, whether it's like, oh, well, I kind of like this person, they could be my friend, but they're probably going to hell because of this thing. So,
well, God is holy, so He is set apart from sin. What you're talking about is fixing not that Holy Father.
Kind of conflict, even through sort of your false self-assurances.
You're talking about mixing with sin.
No, I think that's damaging. I think that's something that creates a large source of anxiety in people that they're just not aware of. Right?
But I mean, if you're mixing with sin, you're no longer whole. So there's going to be a problem there.
I think it creates a necessary compartmentalization of empathy to some degree.
Empathy.
Yeah, you have to distance yourself emotionally from enjoying the time that you have.
It's limited, very limited, and
very
you know
narrow.
what? At the end of the day, a lot of this stuff you're gonna look back and go, "Oh man, this and that." A lot of shoulda, woulda, could you, and it's gonna happen. You're gonna be in your 50s if you make it. You're gonna be in your 60s, whatever, and there is gonna be a lot of shoulda, woulda, could you moments. But you also have to still keep moving forward, and that's what I'm saying. Don't waste time on a lot of this stuff sometimes because it's a gamble. You could be right and you could be wrong. It even says in your own Bible, you don't know the day, the hour, the time. So you have to be ready. Okay, well then just be a good person and forgive yourself of your sins and just study your Bible the best you can. But
Amen, sir. I agree with that.
We're still responsible for ourselves.
Forgive yourself for sin. You can't forgive yourself for sin. You can't give yourself happiness. You can't give yourself, an emotion of fulfillment and satisfaction. God has to give that.
Yeah, but see, I don't believe in that, Lemon, right? Like that doesn't hold any weight with.
Still responsible for my own soul, so there's no amount of God that you can
God
do.
doesn't exist. Then what you say would make sense, and you have to live your best life now. But if God does exist, you're going to live your best life now, and the rest of it's going to be in hell. But if you die, and God,
how many
sins, you have a promise of something beyond this life that's even greater. So for the people that are going to go to hell or whatever, their best life is now. After that, they're just going to be suffering eternally if God exists and they haven't repented.
Right. And God knows whether I'm going to heaven or hell, so it doesn't fucking matter. Matter.
He knows your life like there's something in the end hereafter. It gives even this life even more.
He knows the beginning, the middle, and the end. Says in the Bible. So it doesn't matter. He knows when I'm gonna have my revolution moment and go, holy shit, I see him in the sky. My eyes are blind. Jesus is. It's gonna happen, or it's not gonna happen.
In the Bible, there is no free will, so nobody has a choice, right? And if you don't have a choice, then you might as well enjoy life, because if that's the thing you've decided to do, it's the only thing that you could have done.
So you're saying that God chose for you to be here, having this conversation. God chose.
Apparently,
He created everything, knowing the beginning, middle, and end when He did it, which is what the.
So you're saying God chose for you. At that point, you're just an automaton. You're just a machine. So why are we even having this discussion?
I don't know. I don't know.
And why are you making a distinction at all between freedom from God and being enslaved to Him? Why are you making that distinction at all?
Never
the
have.
distinction would be meaningless to you if you were an automaton that was controlled by God or whatever.
I never have. When I came to the realization of beginning, middle, and end, it was because He already knows whether I'm going to be in heaven or hell or where I'm going to be, because He's already designed it. So in my eyes, that's the way it is.
But the thing is, we wouldn't even be having a discussion at this point. We wouldn't be able to make the distinction, and even if we could make the distinction, it wouldn't matter. So that's paradoxical.
What do you mean?
Either
You're missing it.
As a free agent, or
you're missing it, Lemon. God knows the outcome, but you don't. So your choices and your decisions are honest because you don't know the.
There you go. Thank you, Phoenix.
It doesn't matter. You can still choose based off of what you know. Just like in a contract, just like in any relationship. Just because you don't have God's power doesn't mean that you can't choose. That's a category error. You can still choose. You just don't know what all the outcomes are like.
Lemon.
What's the
Let me
difference?
ask. So, if I were to tell you to pick a card, any card from a deck of cards, but I knew all of the cards were the same, I know the outcome, right? And you think you have a free choice, so you pick that card and you go, hee hee, I have my secret card and I only know it, right? It doesn't matter. You didn't have a choice because the outcome was known. If
But
God
the thing
told you everything with the ending known, then any choice you make by your own setup would be an illusion.
But for you to have choices, somebody needs to give you options. Otherwise, you have nothing to choose. It can't be helped. God's created.
We're not saying God can't guide
Point
your
then
life.
becomes whether or not He's given you enough options to have enough of a choice to live your life in freedom and have your best purpose. Most able to fulfill God's purpose for your life and choose whether to accept it or reject it. That's all. That doesn't mean you can't choose.
If you did not know what choices you would make. And
but the thing is, you don't. But you don't go into Walmart saying, geez, I wish this Walmart Supercenter was even bigger and 10 times as big with miles and miles of selection. After a while, you're going to be like, you know what? I don't need all this choice. I am, perfectly content and I can fulfill my purpose with this amount of choice and I'm good. You'd probably pick a certain segment of the supermarket to stay in if you could help it, as opposed to walking miles and miles to go to a 10 times as big Walmart Supercenter. And even then you'd probably be like, well, why isn't this Walmart Supercenter the size of a city? Why isn't this Walmart Supercenter full of choices, from here to Timbuktu? Why isn't this whole world one big Walmart? That's absurd. Eventually you need to make choices and live your life. The point is whether or not you have enough choices for it to matter, for you to freely choose and have enough freedom to fulfill your purpose. It's childish just to say that just because you don't have the power of God and just because you can't make your own alternatives and your own choices that you can't choose. You can still choose, but you do not have God's power. That's a category.
It's not a category error.
Hey, Lemon,
you're answering not.
You want God's power. And that's what's so satanic about what you're talking about. You won't submit to God, you want his power, and you want the ability to make the choices and the outcomes yourself instead of him. So what you're talking about is satanic power. It is not choice.
No.
If he's making the choice, then what does it matter?
You can still choose, though. You can still choose whether or not the options have been set out. It's whether or not enough options have been set out for you to fulfill your purpose and for you to feel, like you have had, a free choice. That is all.
So Lemon,
and what you're missing is that
hold on.
If the choice you make is already pre-known, then it's not a choice at that point. Now, if you want to argue that God can see the sum total of all all outcomes simultaneously, that's a different argument, and not one that you've even attempted to make.
That's all we're trying to say. You have two choices, A and B. You're
complaining about your choices when going into Walmart. You're just complaining about God having the power to put out the choices for you and whether you have the power to make those choices. You're talking about reduces to satanic power and you want God's power to make the choices. You're not really saying that I can or can't choose freely. That's a different argument. You can still choose from the options that are set in front of you. You still have a choice, even though you may not have all of the choices of God's power.
No, Lemon. I don't think that you understand what we're.
Yeah, I don't think you're getting it, Lemon.
We're not saying that you will in some way feel compelled or anything like. Right? It's so you watch movies. I've heard you talk about movies. You've seen The Matrix. You've quoted the red pill, blue pill thing a few times.
Zan, no offense, bro, but the monologuing has to stop. Like, I just got off the phone with my dad, and you're still in your monologue. But
I wasn't talking at all.
But you should because
let's cut to the chase. We're talking about freedom from God. We're talking about freedom from God, but the thing is, it's incoherent to talk about freedom from God when God had to make you and give you the choices anyway. So what you're talking about is an incoherent, choice.
No one is talking freedom from God, Lemon. We're telling you that you don't understand that a choice where the choice is already predetermined is not a.
But you don't have God's power. God's uncreated and you're created. So what you're talking about is impossible. It's an impossible scenario.
Thank you. Amen, Lemon.
What?
So you're talking about freedom from God, despite the fact that God had to make you, God had to fashion you, and make the choices for you. That's incoherent.
God, that's not what we're saying at all. We're not talking about freedom.
They're talking ultimately talking about living your life into this paradigm that you don't have this certainty of knowing the outcome. You're trying to tell everyone what the right path is, and then in the same breath admit you don't actually know whether the rapture's now or it's in the past or it's something. You know what I mean? But you're so certain, but then at the same time you don't know. It's kind of contradicting your points that you're making, Lemon.
What you're saying is even more contradictory because you're talking about freedom from God. So you're talking about freedom to make your own choices, but you would have to make your own choices.
Hold on. God gave
so it's a circle
free
that just
will.
breaks
So
down.
therefore, freedom from choice.
If you're not free, because you have to make your own choices, then that's a paradox. You're talking about freedom to make your own choices, but you would have to make your own choices to have freedom in the first place. It's a paradox. So why not just rest in the paradox of God, who made the choices for you, and just choose wisely?
Okay. Well, here's a question for you. Let's say you grew up in a household where you had very, very strict parents. They were very religious. They physically beat religion into you, and you reeled away from it instead of going towards God. Do you think God would hold you accountable, or would God understand your path?
God would hold you accountable.
So he wouldn't be understanding.
He would
He
hold
wouldn't
you
be
accountable for your
understanding to the reason why you had the feelings you do. Because the free will that you were given was taken away by the parents that you had.
God's not going to let you make excuses, though. He's going to be like, "Well, this happened, but I gave you an opportunity."
Call that
for
an
this to
excuse.
happen,
I
so-
would call.
Oh wait, he just said it though, Phoenix. God's gonna say, "Well, you had a choice, and I gave you the choice." Yeah, you guided, I guess. Me, you gave me that that extra money in my pocket, I guess, to buy food. But the point is, ultimately, at the end of the road, it's predestined, it's predetermined, because it says in the Bible, He knows the beginning, the middle, and the end. How do you explain that? You still haven't explained that.
Yes, if everyone who disbelieves was predetermined to disbelieve, God would have been better off creating them in hell to start with.
Exactly. And at the end of the day, Lemon, God, judgment is said to be just.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, you're going to a FEMA camp and you're going to get a microchip and you're going to suffer just like everyone else.
You're still going on about this mortal world. Remember in the Bible it says this is world, but nothing but illusion.
Lemon is the most correct person. Lemon said the most truthful thing I've heard all day today.
Lemon brought up rapture, which was invented by 1945 Schofield.
Yeah,
Schofield Bible.
About the pre-trib rapture in the chat.
I'm telling you, don't believe in the Schofield Bible. The red writings at the bottom of those Bibles. I would not do that. That's an interpretation by man, which is probably far than the interpretation by man already.
Absolutely, and the Bible's already being changed. Which said not
the problem
to change.
is that people like to pick and choose and cherry pick the Bible. Okay, and I understand that. Okay, I totally get that. But at the end of the day, the Bible says what the Bible says. Okay, we're not going to just cherry pick it and twist its words and move it around.
No, you haven't. But it's already been cherry picked and messed with by. It's already been redone in a King James version. So that's why I said before, I believe the word of God has been watered down already. We just don't know.
Exactly.
No,
in the Old Testament soda. In the Old Testament soda, it says that God has regret.
Okay. Yep. All right. Anyways,
How does an all-knowing thing knew what it was going to do have regret?
Sheeple, are you going to take the microchip?
Maybe, but don't feel like you're enlightened either, Soda. Like I said, they're going to find you. You think you're out in Wisconsin underneath the grass. They're going to have thermal imaging. They're going to have all this technology to find you if they want to. So don't say that you can get off the grid because
I'm going off grid. I've already started looking up how to survive in the wilderness.
You better have a tunnel. And who's to say that they ain't got no robots by then to scan and find you, just like Terminator?
They won't find me.
I used to work with I used to work with RFID technology, Soda. Do you understand how it works?
Yeah, they're gonna implant you with this chip, and they are going to use it as your currency method. You will not be able to function in the daily life unless you have this microchip, okay?
Right, but do you know how the technology itself works?
I don't need to know how it works to know that they're going to take away your rights and make you a fucking chip. All you are is just an RFDI chip to them, right? Like, that's all. I don't need to know how the mechanics of the fucking microchip work, or like I don't need to know how I don't need to know how an iPhone works to use it, right? Like, come on.
Well, what I'm saying to you, Soto, is that this idea that see, I think people like Chemo also kind of get this idea that this chip's in your arm and it's powered by a little battery or something the whole time. That's not how RFID works. Simply by having a small ring inside it, and it's not quite connected. And when you run it over using induction, a method, the field goes over the little ring and connects the circuit and turns on the chip. It's not something that's on the whole time. It's impossible. Otherwise, you'd have to have it taken out all the time to replace the battery.
Okay, that doesn't matter. That literally doesn't matter.
You can't be. The idea that it's this big thing. It's the fact that it could identify you. It could let you. It could have all your medical record linked to it. And yeah, there's for people in society that are on probation or on parole or repeat offenders or a certain category of people, it could be a very beneficial thing to put them all on it, because then they try to give a false name, they scan the chip. I'm sorry, that's not your name. You see what I mean? We keep society safer. But the idea that we're all just tracked walking around, it's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous.
I'm so sorry for you,
Sheeple, that would be really interesting. That would be really interesting, Sheeple. Let's see, a guy who's on probation walks into a bar where he's not allowed to be.
Yeah, so you guys are going to make all the good things about the chip. But what about the bad things, right? They're tracking you. They're putting this implant in your hand. Doesn't that concern you? They're literally implanting you with it.
When they do it, it concerns me when they do it.
So
they're gonna do it soon. They're already microchipping people in Sweden.
Okay.
Yeah, soon back in 2012.
Oh yeah, they did that years ago with rice and the dogs, and you can track your dogs.
Yeah, I mean. Here's the thing, though, too, right? Like, at the end of the day, here's my prediction for you, Soda. I don't think there'll be any gunpoint people coming around forcing people into a chip. Here's what you might see. Because it does actually make sense if we have this technology for other things other than just currency. Like, as an example, somebody has one of these, whatever. Let's say you did have some sort of a chip that was a unique identifier. You could also have all your medical information. If somebody's rushed into the hospital, a doctor could get a quick list of their medical records, allergies, etc., etc. There's potential positive benefits for this, right? So you're not going to see it forced at gunpoint. You're going to see early versions of technology, and some people will just voluntarily, hey, that's cool and convenient, and they'll adopt it. Eventually, it might, over the course a few years, few generations, as different features and conveniences, the vast majority of the population will have this, and some people won't. And there'll probably be alternative methods. There'll be an external card or some other thing that runs on whatever this runs on. If you see the adoption of a digital currency, like some sort of a blockchain currency, which you might, because you may see some concerns over passing money around being a thing connected to germs. There may be a push for more cashless interactions, actually. That seems like a fairly reasonable psychological thing to expect with the current circumstances.
Yeah, that's not for another 10 years at least.
Yeah, at least. But
and let me tell you this. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was done.
Something interesting when it comes to that, actually. I lived in New York for a good while. I was in New York City a good while a few years back. And in Brooklyn and a lot of the middle income, lower income neighborhoods, they don't even use debit cards. It's pretty much cash all the way. There's Apple Pay, there's Samsung Pay, there's debit cards, there's all sorts of things. And they still primarily make use of cash because it's the easiest way to do transactions, because the majority of the mom and pops don't accept credit or debit because of the way the fees that it would cost to have the machine.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't see what all this fear is. I mean, they're already tracking people by their cell phones. People volunteer to have that technology, and you already have a credit rating, and that can determine where you are in society and your ability to do all kinds of things. So I don't really see what's the whole point of the chip at this point.
Yeah, I don't understand exactly what that would.
Because we're worldly, and God, and God said this, and God said that, and we're worldly, and we're going to hell, guys. I mean, that's just the way.
Yeah, the RFID chip is way more limited than your cell phone.
Yeah, you can't actually GPS track an RFID chip. It doesn't have a GPS receiver.
That's what I was saying before. It only works when a reader is close by. I used to program for a family business. They're very, very basic.
Yeah, and what is that? Radio waves, or what kind of waves are those?
Radio low
You
frequency.
You need a radio wave to power the chip. There's an antenna in the chip that receives power when it's near a reader that powers the chip. You got to be close proximity to it, though.
It's a small ring, and the ring is almost touching, and when it gets close to a small field of it, connects that circuit and turns on the chip. It's that simple.
Either way, I don't know. I don't understand the whole God
I don't
thing.
know what it would be you would put on the NFC reader. Like, that would be all that useful to do all of these things, because people in theory could like let's say it was some kind of a blockchain, and the you had a unique identifier, like some sort of unique hash on your chip.
Yeah.
If somebody could clone that, then they would essentially just have instant identity theft.
Yeah, exactly. It's so easy like, for example, like I used to get a whole bunch of chips in from an old job, or some, they upgraded their system, so they switched to a whole new set of cards and everything. And I used to go through each one and read what was already on, you know, and then erase it. So I would be able to know every single chip. I'd know which one, I had to remake again, and I could wipe everything on the chip. So exactly. There'd have to be some way to have an unscannable chip, yet codes into chips.
I don't know how you would do that, right?
I don't know how you do that either. Like, because how would they go through maintenance, or like, how would they have any type of? Yeah, it's a very, very difficult process.
Yeah.
Even if the chip was really long,
Here's where this might become a possibility, but I don't think that you would see this for a long time. And that's, if you look at some of the brain microchip technologies that are being worked on, right? Like the
You're talking about bionics or enhancements?
Yeah.
I mean, there would be a way to cryptographically encode the key so that you could not clone.
Yeah, shared secret data.
Well, I think she needs to see another video of the kid talking about the Roman stuff, and this is all wrong. That the Mark of the Beast won't be the microchip, and he's got a whole video series about that, and she hasn't found those videos yet to debunk that the Mark of the Beast will be a microchip.
The Mark of the Beast would be the cell phone, because it has way more capability than a chip in your arm would ever have, right? And the cell phone is something that already can track you and monitor
but according to biblical terms, it's a mark upon the forehead or upon the hand.
Yeah.
And distinguishable by man or something or whatever.
If cell phones were the Mark of the Beast, they'd be a hell of a lot cheaper to have good.
Either way, she hasn't seen these other videos to counteract all the things of that.
Yeah, you could much imagine more branding, a hot iron branding, that was given by the authority at the time, and so no one could buy or sell their goods at the market, or what I mean. It's much more logical to take it back into the past than it is now,
Yeah, I mean,
all the revelation. All the riots, not the riots, all the battles and all the prophecies, all are about swords. With swords in them, and everyone's got guns. So have the prophecies passed?
There was a historian that was saying something about there were people in like essentially like when you had all the pirates and stuff going around, like the Caribbean pirate, like when they would brand people as a pirate. Apparently, some of the Christians in some of those areas thought that the piracy branding was the mark of the beast because they were the bad people, the plunderers, the thieves, the liars. And they were being branded.
Yeah, but don't you have to willingly take the mark of the beast in order for it to be the mark of the beast?
They had said that they had willingly done so through their actions.
Oh, right. There's always an answer.
Yeah.
You can't buy, sell, or trade without the mark, though, also.
Well, none of us should be using our computers in computer and geometry as 6/6.
Yeah, that's the thing, though, Kosha, right? Like, they had a different interpretation of the whole thing, apparently. Like, the can't buy, sell, and trade. People who had the mark for the pirates couldn't buy, sell, and trade, and they weren't trusted amongst their own communities because they had already been sort of, like, identified and shit. So, like, it limited their ability to do so. So it wasn't look as like, oh, this is going to impact us. It's going to impact the people, right? Like, there was an entirely different interpretation is the point, but it fit the time.
Well, it's the opposite interpretation, though. It says you can't buy, sell, or trade without it.
Yeah.
So if you don't have it, then
that didn't stop them back then from believing it.
You guys know what this all means, though. I mean, basically, we all been through this 20s, 18s, 19s, whatever. We're a little older now, so you're not fooling me all the way. I'm still looking for signs, but you're not fooling me entirely.
Yeah, I still think that's silly. I don't think there are signs.
You know how in the Ten Commandments, thou shalt not steal?
Sure.
Why would God care about private property? I mean, the whole notion of private property seems kind of weird, right? Like,
yeah, it's not a real rule that you should have to make in society, right?
if you steal from Standard Oil or one of the robber barons, is that really stealing? I mean, if you're a serf in medieval England and you're basically your lords just basically give you just a bare subsistence living to where you could just barely survive and you steal from them to make your children healthier, is that stealing? I mean,
Or is that taking what was partly rightfully yours from the shared wealth of the land that everybody was made equal on, right?
I mean, yeah. Ultimately, right? We all are on this planet, and there's nothing that says that this land is my land or this land is your land, right? Other than the creation of nation states and private property. You know what I mean? Like, if you really think about it, it's all our shared resources. So it's just weird that in these books they talk about private property, which seems something like God wouldn't be too concerned about private property and the squabbles of human beings within their governments regarding what is private property and what isn't, right?
Yeah, it's an odd thing, isn't it? Seems like a really sort of convenient thing for people to invent, though.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I'm just going to take the next, as far as you can see, and all this land is now my land, and I have the certificate that was granted to me by the local warlord who says this is my land, and so therefore, anything you take off my land is my land.
That's the white man's rules.
I mean, you would think that if you had like a god that was trying to create some kind of perfect world, that there'd be like, nobody has property, everybody has everything they need,
Yeah, but
I don't hear
people from the thieves, the godless thieves.
How come I never hear theories or religions? How come I never hear theories or religions that say, look, there is a deity, he made the world, and you're going to meet him one day. You just don't know when or how or whatever. It's always, you got to be born again. You got to go to the box and talk to the pedophile priest. You have to, what's the Jewish way? I don't know, pray 3 times a day. There's all these other religions. The Buddha, you have to be.
Don't forget the hats. There's some important hats you have to wear, right? George Carlin had that joke about the hats.
Exactly.
Don't mix your fibers.
So what I'm saying in general is, I don't see anybody just coming up with another religion that's just saying, hey, be good, be good to others, blah blah blah, and let him decide, because ultimately
it doesn't make for much of an organized religion, but deism is that thing.
What was it? Spinozism. Spinozism.
You're talking about a Spinozian god, are you?
Spinozism. How do you say Spinozism? It's hard.
Not really a thing. I mean, it's more of a philosophical thing.
I don't know.
Sometimes called the atheist god.
Haven't dove too much into we're evolving from monkeys and stuff. So whatever.
That has nothing to do with.
No, the evolution. Like there's only a couple explanations. Evolution, and then God, right? Like there's only a couple explanations. So
oh no, many more than. It's just
aliens.
There's only one sensible one that has any amount of evidence behind.
The Darwin theory, because they found monkey skulls that were elongated, or what?
Well, that certainly was some of the early investigations into things, but we wouldn't say like the first people to invent the lens, are responsible for today's modern cameras, right? Like we obviously have learned more since they invented the original, whatever a lens would have been, and it's primitive.
The original pinhole camera has very little to do with the current camera.
Darwin certainly moved in a direction. Some of the things that he thought were correct, some of the things he thought were incorrect, but he inspired a lot of people to do a lot more research, and the research that's been accumulated over time, the sort of modern, what we have as a camera today and research on this thing kind of.
So how old are humans, or how old is the Earth then?
Well, modern humans have been around at least 250,000 years, maybe longer.
Roughly.
Okay. So how long's the Earth been around, you think?
4.5 billion years or so.
Okay. So if you agree with 4.5 billion, then why can they do carbon dating and dating on that Sphinx that shows 10,000?
What?
On the Sphinx? I don't know. I think there is some controversy as to what era the Sphinx was built, that it might be as old as 8,000 years old.
Also, you can't carbon date it. Also, you cannot carbon date the Sphinx. It was never alive. It's sandstone.
Whatever, you know what I mean? Like there's been dating. There's water erosion. They're saying it's over 10,000 years or 10.
Some people are saying that.
Some people have said that. It could be that the rocks that it was, or whatever it was made with, or it's just older in structure. It was already there.
It was, as I understand it, it's not a monument that was built. It was carved out of the existing rock. I don't know how you date it.
Yeah. So I mean, it would be determined to be as old as that rock was around before it was carved, I would assume. But I mean,
it's because of water erosion.
There's certainly mysteries, right? Here's the thing. There isn't a whole lot of evidence to suggest that people were all that much more stupid or incapable of intellectual thought, like for a long time ago, because we've been around with roughly the same brain capacity. So there could have been waves of pretty interesting things on the planet that have just not lasted because of certain technologies not coming about, right? You could have people who are relatively primitive in technology, but still rather intelligent in other ways, right? Like different form of intelligence, sure, different understanding of the world, sure. But there's gonna be shit that was possibly built. There's gonna be stuff that was possibly done that we just don't have a record of.
So I'm gonna ask you one more question. So if we've been around for 5,000 years, whatever, we'll say humans have been around 4,000 years, whatever. At least longer than 1,000 years. We know this. Humans. Why is it all of a sudden now we have all this cool ass technology? Why didn't we have it like 1,000 years ago? Are we just
because we're built on the shoulders of giants? It takes the first person to think of it
in order to go.
It's exponential growth of technology, which makes it hard for human beings because human beings have trouble dealing with exponentials.
I'm gonna guess though that there was people that did shit or figured stuff out that in their day would have been like. Have you ever seen some of the videos of those people that go out in the jungle and build these like crazy fucking hut things out of just grass and dirt and stuff? Like, let's say there was a whole bunch there could have been a whole bunch of people doing really intricate fancy stuff way back, shit like that. After a certain period of time, there wouldn't be any evidence of that. But there could have been like very high crafting skill in certain things, and people would have been like, oh wow, check it out, this is really cool and modern, this is a fresh idea. And it's like a grass hut. And that would have been like that age's cell phone. And you just like slowly move up, you know, certain tools getting
If somebody came, if the Baghdad battery is real, which I think it is, all it takes is somebody to actually have figured out how to use that. And if they didn't figure it out, then it just became a magic way of making people shock or electroplating. It takes that one person to figure out how to make it into a light bulb.
Yeah, Hero's steam engine, and what was that? A couple thousand years ago, it was just a curiosity. They didn't figure out how to make something useful out of it.
Okay.
And
So
it's
what
kind
I'm
of
saying
hard
is
to invent stuff when you don't have a lot